In the past, they only appeared in supernatural accidents, with some being gentle and harmless, but others solely aiming to cause harm. Over time, the number of these spirits increased, and they began hunting humans for fun. This forced humanity to hide in order to survive until one day, the spirit dominators appeared. These dominators formed contracts with these entities to fight against these evil specters and malevolent dominators. And the contract is made through an item known as a spectral vessel. Thus, by performing a ceremony, those chosen by the ghosts qualified enter the academy and become Dominator candidates. At the second Dominator Academy in Liu City, today is the summoning ceremony, where the contracting spirit will be evoked. Even imagining failure fills everyone with fear, as it could mean the end of their life. It is said that a normal citizen must produce at least 10 children before the age of 30 in the city if they fail. And that is the least of their worries, as it is possible to die during the ceremony if they fail. But suddenly, someone appears, drawing everyone's attention. In this case, the 15-year-old student Lin Feng thinks this is his chance to turn things around. 10 years ago, when Lin was a child, people said he had no talent and that his spectral vessel was a disgrace. Because of this, his parents abandoned him, and on the streets, he began to be mistreated by other kids who had better contracting spirits and ethereal auras. However, Lin didn't take it lying down, and one day kicked one of the bullies square in the face. Today, he knows he must become strong so no one can mock him again, and this drives him to be determined to succeed in the ceremony. Breaking the silence, the odd person informs everyone that he will be the evaluator in charge of the summoning ceremony. In this case, he orders the students to stop stalling and take their spectral vessels, which are individual objects. With this, he instructs the students to memorize their mental spirit into the vessel. But Lin still doesn't know how he will summon a spirit with the object he has. Returning to the professor's explanation, he states that after a long maturation period, the spirit will be summoned. As the event begins, one of the vessels starts cracking and leaking blood. Meanwhile, the girl's ring begins to heat up, making her extremely uncomfortable. In response, the instructor explains that when the vessel comes into contact with the ethereal aura, a reaction occurs, signaling the spirit has been awakened. Then others continue attempting to stimulate their vessels for the same reaction. But the instructor warned that if there was no reaction, it meant the spirit had already disappeared and that those individuals could leave. At this, one of the children becomes angry and tells the instructor to shut up, claiming he isn't even human to be listened to. Indeed, he is merely a puppet controlled by a dominator. Now Lin has bigger problems to deal with, such as his unresponsive vessel. Faced with this, the earlier bully appears to mock the protagonist's situation. Because the vessel isn't responding, he suggests the boy become a breeder, as that's all he'll be good for. Pridefully, the bully tells the losers to give up, which makes the earlier boy want to fight him. However, before he can do anything, the instructor casts some kind of spell, causing the boy to collapse. This leaves the protagonist impressed by the power of a spirit tamer. The instructor, on the other hand, becomes irritated and warns that those without a contracting spirit are not on the same level as the others to argue. Thus, Lin sees no other option but to leave the room. Outside, while the professor talks about spirit summoning, the protagonist questions whether he truly lacks the ability to summon anything. Inside the room, one by one, the students begin successfully completing the process to become dominators. But suddenly, something catches everyone's attention as a sharp blade emerges from within the bully, causing him to scream for help. It becomes clear that the bully's contractor is a malevolent spirit. The moment it manifests, the student's body is overtaken, making him attack his peers. Fortunately, the bully's attack only causes superficial injuries, but he continues to chase the panicked students. However, as he witnesses all this, the protagonist questions why the instructor does nothing to help. And as the bully leaves the room, he encounters Lin and charges at him with bloodlust. Before the worst could happen, the boy's contracting spirit, called the System, is detected. Then the spirit begins to take the form of a little girl who appears in front of Lin, surrounded by a magical circle. Obviously, our protagonist doesn't understand why his contracting spirit is a little girl. The System announces that a spiritual piddle and 50 experience points have been obtained, in addition to the spirit's ability being shattering. Despite finding it strange, Lin still thinks the little girl is cute, and the System informs him that the spirit can be enhanced with the pill. Knowing he is in a dangerous situation, he decides to use it, evolving the spirit from rank F to E and improving his body by 30%. All of the protagonist's senses are enhanced, and now the mission Connection is opened, asking for a name to be given to the contracting spirit. At this point, the boy remembers his past and decides to name her Tong Tong, awakening a summoner spell called the Shadow Mode. However, the bully only becomes angrier and more powerful, engulfed in darkness. Then the instructor appears and orders the students to stand behind him, as the delinquent is entering berserk mode. At this moment, the protagonist is about to fight against a rank D spirit. Since he doesn't know what Tong Tong can do, he understands it's best to be cautious. But now that Lin is a spirit tamer, he grabs a chair and decides it's time to prove his worth. When an attack comes his way, the boy manages to dodge, noticing an improvement in his reaction time. He counters, completely destroying the wooden chair. But that isn't enough to defeat the bully, so he increases the size of his blade and attacks again. The protagonist becomes desperate, unable to dodge, but fortunately, his spirit saves him. Before he can even be surprised, the spirit transforms into a red version, destroying his opponent's weapon. This transformation causes massive destruction along with an unparalleled release of aura. The protagonist is stunned by this transformation, and the instructor is even more shocked. Back in the fight, the little girl lands a magical strike on the bully's face, followed by another blow that sends him flying, completely breaking his weapon. This causes the boy to pass out and return to his normal state. With the first battle completed and the protagonist having killed a malevolent specter, he gains stats and another spiritual pill. Thus, he realizes that things are different from what the teacher said, but the rewards are incredible. Without delay, the contracting spirit returns to normal and to her spiritual vessel, as she seems to have used too much ethereal soul. Witnessing all of this, the students greatly admire the protagonist's performance and think they should stick by his side no matter what. The instructor is also very impressed, praising Lin and saying that compared to him, the others are cowards. In any case, that's all for today, and those who remain are now spirit tamers in training. Before leaving, the instructor announces that he will report the incident to the outer city and that they will meet again another day. In his mind, all he can think about is that summoning a first-rank spirit is something extraordinary. For this reason, the instructor starts questioning who Lin Feng really is. After everything he has been through, the protagonist hopes that together with Tong Tong, they can become the best. In the oldest area within Liu City, the protagonist lies on his bed, looking at his vessel. Out of curiosity, he decides to summon Tong Tong. As expected, the temperature drops when a spirit appears. Getting straight to the point, the hero praises his spirit for her performance today, but she doesn't respond. In this case, he wonders if the girl is unconscious or if he needs to level up to interact with her. At that moment, the system announces that because Lin talked to Tong Tong for 5 minutes, he earned points indicating the existence of daily tasks. Looking at his stats, the boy notices the Shadow Mode spell, something he's never heard of, especially since spirits don't usually have summoner spells. Very cleverly, he thinks he should stop using the spiritual pill until he understands how the system works to avoid drawing attention. Even though he can't touch the girl, Lin gains experience by attempting to pat her. He also gains experience by trying to teach her to read and watch a movie together. Moreover, spending time with the contracting spirit alone completes some missions. At the end of the day, the boy farms a total of 50 spiritual experience points and 10 affinity points. So he decides to sleep because the next morning he has Dominator training, but it ends up being difficult with her staring so much. On the second day at the Academy Gate, as Lin passes by, everyone is talking about the boy who defeated a rank D malevolent spirit on his own. Some are even discussing the idea of getting closer to the protagonist in the future. Without wasting time, the excursion leader tells the students to get on the bus. One thing that catches attention is that there are spirits inside the truck. However, for some reason, Tong Tong doesn't react to any of them as they don't seem to have ill intentions. Still, for the others, Lin not reacting is something to be admired. In any case, the person in charge shows up and tells the students to stop being impressed by spirits. This is because the outer city is full of them, but if they don't possess a malevolent aura, there's nothing to worry about. Additionally, the person explains that in the future, the students will learn that humans can be far scarier than spirits. After a long journey at Gate 4 of Liu City, some men order the vehicle to stop. The driver asks for permission to pass, explaining that they are from the 2nd Spirit Dominator Training Unit. This earns them a free pass to continue advancing through the tunnel. From the window, the children are amazed by the city as there is a golden wall just like the rumors said. It's a layer of gold 1 meter thick, designed to prevent malevolent spirits from crossing. Gold has the ability to block all ghostly attacks, and the inner city uses these walls for protection. With that, the trip ends and the spirits start leaving the bus like normal people. Outside, the large outer city of Liu City is revealed. As for the spirits, someone asks why they're all staying close to middle-aged men. The protagonist explains that after the age of 40, these men no longer have reproductive value and are only left with physical labor. However, obviously, no one pays attention to the explanation since they are in the presence of the Academy's famous student. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the earlier instructor shows up and tells the students to follow him. He then explains that the kids will have 3 months to become dominators and will be given a map with a tracker and a spot in the area with buildings. Each house contains sealed spirits, and to claim them, one must defeat the spirits. Teams can be formed, or students can fight the guardian alone, and the larger the house, the stronger the spirit. Obviously, the strongest spirits reside in the mansions, and the instructor mentions that anyone brave enough can try their luck there. Thus, the day is set for the mission, and the system will reward Lin with spectral redemption and experience based on the size of the house. Without delay, a beautiful girl appears and kindly asks if Lin would like to form a team with them. But the protagonist declines without even thinking, saying he's the type who works alone. This leaves the girl very embarrassed because she's never been rejected like that before. Consequently, a boy from the group asks where Lin is heading, and Lin simply walks toward the mansion area. Upon arrival, the hero notices that the atmosphere there is indeed different. Seeking information, he asks an old man how to enter the mansion, but the man only advises Lin to leave. This is because the mansion isn't meant for normal students, and it's been 10 years since anyone succeeded. In this case, the hero asks if no one has tried, but the old man replies that they have. However, all that awaited them was death, as the spirits in this mansion are at least rank C. If Lin survives but the spirit dies, he will have to become a breeder. Hearing this, the protagonist understands the risk is indeed high but decides to use the pill to reduce the rank gap. Tong Tong then evolves to rank D, and Lin receives an 80% physical enhancement. With that, the hero heads for the mansion, leaving the old man completely desperate. But Lin feels confident because with his spirit's malevolent mode, Tong Tong should definitely reach rank C. Inside, Lin begins to wonder where the rank C spirit might be hiding. Looking up, the boy unexpectedly spots it, but as he pursues, it simply vanishes. However, the hero hears the sound of food being prepared, leading him to think the spirit is in the kitchen. So Lin rushes to the spot, but upon arrival, everything is in disarray and the noise stops. Suddenly, from behind the boy, a knife approaches, only to be stopped at the last second by Tong Tong. By entering a fight, the spirit runs off, attracting the hero's contracting spirit. This makes the protagonist desperate, and other malevolent spirits take the opportunity to attack Lin in the kitchen. Faced with this, the hero is confused about why there are so many ghosts instead of just one, and worried because he can't summon Tong Tong. But since he has no time to think, the boy starts running, dodging all the attacks. At least Lin received a physical enhancement, making him much faster. With this, he escapes from the room, and unexpectedly, the spirits disappear. Because of this, Lin decides to test if they only activate when someone enters the room, and when he steps inside, his theory is confirmed. Due to the restrictions of the area, they were trying to lure the boy to the second floor. However, the hero forgot to look for Tong Tong, so he starts running again. When he reaches the banquet hall, he shouts for the girl to run away, saying it's a trap. Above the boy is the ghost that attacked Tong Tong, likely the main body prepared to stab him. Without thinking twice, Lin slashes it with his golden dagger, but unexpectedly, the cut has no effect. However, when the monster tries to pursue the hero into the hall, it simply disintegrates, revealing that it is just a puppet. The others, however, notice the intruder's presence and move closer to attack him. By drawing their attention, our hero can now call this contractor back into the vessel. After doing so, he quickly runs through the hallway and jumps off the mansion, landing on the ground and creating a hole into the basement. A few seconds later, Lin wakes up feeling a bit dizzy, thinking that dealing with a rank C spirit is truly challenging. But when the boy looks closer, right in front of him is a strange monster that keeps making a bizarre noise. This is the main body, a soul-devouring monster incapable of moving and feeding on souls to grow stronger. In front of the guests, the monster attacks Tong Tong, and the girl defends herself until one of the strikes hits her. To help his contractor, the hero draws his dagger and starts cutting the tentacles, but ends up getting caught. The little girl tries to help her master, but the protagonist begins to be devoured, and its consciousness starts to fade. Meanwhile, outside the mansion, the instructor asks if Lin Feng really entered alone, and the old man says yes. Hearing this, the teacher rushes to save his student, but as Lin was being devoured, Tong Tong began transforming into her red version. Once fully transformed, she grabbed her master's hand and entered the monster along with the hero, embracing him. At that moment, a red energy started emanating, even alerting the instructor, who descended immediately. But unexpectedly, an explosion occurred right in front of him, even frightening the old man outside. When the dust settled, the teacher realized the rank C spirit had been defeated. With the battle over, the contractor returned to the vessel and the system awarded Lin 1,000 experience points and 1 spiritual potential point. The instructor left, understanding there was no need to stay. Returning to her original form, the instructor was actually a girl who was very impressed, so her butler asked if she had discovered anything. In response, Yan, the leader of Leaf City's branch, explained that a boy named Lin Feng has a spirit with a very powerful second state. In this case, the butler suggested that the hero was someone very lucky, but the leader disagreed. To her, the protagonist has a psychic body. The butler, in turn, was alarmed because people with this composition are usually sent to the barracks right after birth. It is said that people with a psychic body can control multiple contracting spirits, and in the early Chaos era, only these individuals were tamers. But they often didn't live long or were killed by stronger spirits. After 100 years of using blood, sweat, and tears, these people found safe ways to nurture themselves. Back at the mansion, the old man now praised the young boy and handed him a key, saying he had high expectations for the hero. Additionally, he instructed the boy to go to the floor and register to retrieve the spiritual credential. With that, several students gathered in the common area, and some of them thought everyone must be the same. Although they heard rumors that a girl managed to get a house in the noble area, which to them was completely unrealistic. When it's our hero's turn, the secretary asks for his name and key. But when the key is thrown onto the table, the secretary becomes very startled and asks if the boy really defeated the mansion's spirit. Immediately, the rumor spreads, and the students can't believe someone defeated a rank C spirit alone. In any case, the blonde congratulates Lin for being the first under 20 to achieve this feat and hands him the credential. Additionally, he informs Lin that there's a reward of 10,000 credits for expenses, but the rest must be earned through missions. Grateful, the hero thanks him and leaves. As Lin departs, a girl becomes envious because she only received 3,000 credits, while another wonders if Lin would let her live with him if she were his girlfriend. Later, Lin calls Tong Tong and thanks her for a job well done. He also mentions that with the reward they received, they can go shopping, and unexpectedly, Tong Tong nods in agreement. This startles Lin as he begins to think that his contractor has finally awakened her own consciousness. In the outer area of Liu City on Suzaka Street, a voice announces that passengers who wish to disembark should do so now. Our hero then exits along with his contractor and heads to a store called No Taboos. Even after earning 10,000 credits, Lin decides to be frugal and spend only 1,000 on essential items. However, upon reaching the checkout, he realizes a bedsheet costs 800 credits, and the clerk explains it's due to the city's current crisis. In this case, the hero decides not to buy it, using the excuse that it's been quite hot lately. Regardless, the clerk asks if the other items are also his, and as he turns around, the hero sees Tong Tong, the pile of things. Among them, most are rolls of toilet paper. As a result, the protagonist spends 639 credits. At the snack area, the girl fills the cart, leaving the hero indignant because he thought ghosts couldn't eat. In the clothing section, the girl grabs a lot of items and even more in the weapons section. At this point, the inventory storage reaches its limit and an upgrade requires 500 credits, making Lin even more anxious. By nightfall, the two return home having spent a total of 9,187 credits, but at least the spirit's favorability increases by 30 points. However, the hero knows he must be cautious with spending because ghosts are expensive. Back at the mansion, they now need to complete missions to earn points. Otherwise, they'll run out very soon. The association requires them to complete 12 missions in 3 months, allowing them to gain rankings for the master title. Lin, for his part, thinks it won't be difficult, but when checking the rewards, he notices all the missions are in City E. Only 2,000 credits are given for eliminating a rank S spirit, which makes the hero want to target a stronger one. Skipping to the medium rankings, there are a few decent ones in the outer city, but the challenge is capped at rank C. However, just as the hero chooses the water ghost mission, someone else selects it. Still, it doesn't matter because another good mission offering 15,000 credits involves a ghost stealing rice. The next day in the designated city, our hero notices the place feels very empty for a defense front. Outside Liu City, there are many fortresses defended by spirit masters, though some ghosts manage to infiltrate occasionally. The first defense line is the safest as it has many large factories and warehouses. Jumping to the fruit handling area of the city, a worker asks if Lin can really handle the problem, and the hero replies confidently. In this case, another worker instructs the protagonist to follow a gray flag to the cave in the mountain. It's said this ghost is difficult to locate and Lin may have to stay there for a few days. However, our hero doesn't mind, which leaves the workers confused by the boy's reckless attitude. But since the boy seems eager to die, one of them remarks they won't intervene. In this world, there's a lot of mist, and the city uses special devices to disperse it. However, in the jungle, there's only half an hour of sunlight daily, during which ghosts hide, referred to as the safe time. After a long walk, the boy finds a cave entrance. Upon arriving, Lin asks one of the guards if this small place is really the food reservoir. The guard confirms, but not before explaining that appearances can be deceiving and that the place can isolate human auras during an invasion. In this case, the protagonist decides to take a look, and inside, Lin reflects that this ghost is not the attacking type but the kind that causes trouble. Recently, the ghost spirit master came, but as soon as the human entered, he disappeared, which is why they couldn't find him. Thus, Lin called Tong Tong to begin the hunt, which scared the men quite a lot. Getting straight to the point, the hero asks his contractor if she can sense the ghost's aura. The girl points outside, but before anything else, Tong Tong also transforms into her second level. However, now a third eye opens on her forehead, revealing a possible new ability. Without wasting time, she indicates the ghost's position, pointing at the second guard. Suddenly, something green starts moving and making a creepy noise in the boy's pocket. This shows Lin that the hunger ghost was actually hiding in his pocket. The monster then begins to take over the guard's body, possessing him and making him attack the others. Faced with this, the first guard screams, asking what Lao Kai is doing. But the hero simply intercepts him with a kick to the face, sending him flying. Even so, the spirit keeps advancing relentlessly, making the protagonist realize it's a possession. At this moment, the hero's body has already been strengthened twice, so it's certain that normal people would have been hurt. But it seems the boy feels nothing, as if he's gained a high combat capacity. However, Lin has Tong Tong to fight as well. With a quick dash, the girl simply grabs Lao Kai's throat and shoves her hand into his mouth. She then pulls out the malevolent spirit from the guard and throws it toward the boys. With that, the environment turns completely dark, and the first guard thinks they must have been devoured by the hunger ghost's stomach. But the hero knows this is actually the ghost's territory, personal space created and fully controlled by the spirit. Once inside, the territory prevents others from seeing the place, and it's said only powerful spirits have such a domain. Within the spirit's domain, several mouths open with creepy tongues, and one of them grabs the guard and devours him, leaving Lin completely powerless. Another mouth opens, this time at the hero's feet, to devour him. But quickly, he stabs the monster with his golden dagger. staving himself at the last second. However, from within the cut, something begins to make a loud noise along with some red sparks emerging from the ghost's mouth. This happens because the hero's contractor managed to detect and easily break the territory, which left Lin very impressed. With the mission complete, the protagonist receives 10 favorability points and 800 experience points, as well as the talent Devour. However, Tong Tong seems a little worried, so Lin pats her head, saying everything is fine. Later, back in the food handling area, the workers are surprised to see the hero there. One of them asks if the boy acted like a coward and came back with his tail between his legs. But the protagonist replies that he returned because he already killed the spirit, leaving the man in disbelief. This disbelief grows even more when an inspector appears to report that the ghost's aura is gone. In this case, the worker apologizes profusely for not recognizing the boy's power and says the rewards will be transferred to his account soon. By nightfall, the boy receives 15,000 points, and combined with his current total, he reaches 15,800 points. At this moment, a new mission appears to reach rank C in 3 days. If successful, Tong Tong will gain a ghost territory, which is quite valuable. Lin hadn't noticed until now, but when his contractor reached 3 stars, her potential limit increased along with the XP required to evolve. The Devour talent in turn is very useful, but the hero knows he only won easily because the last spirit was relatively weak for rank C. In any case, if they want to reach this level in 3 days, they'll need to increase their tally by defeating several easier spirits. Back outside the city, some young men are discussing the shortage of rank D missions. However, they note that even forming a group of 5, it would be difficult to complete one of these missions. This raises the question of how one group manages to complete and pick up other missions so quickly, this group being Lin's. Ghost after ghost, our hero steadily completes all the rank D missions. And each time, the protagonist gains more experience and increases his favorability with his contractor. Until finally, after long and tiring days, the two stop to rest by a campfire. The system notifies Lin that the spirit can now evolve, prompting him to activate the option immediately. Upon reaching level C, the boy's body strengthens by 50% and Tong Tong gains the skill rip. Additionally, she acquires the Phantom Territory ability, which makes Lin very curious to see how it works. Thus, he wonders how to activate it and decides to test it. At the second defense line of Liu City, the hero prepares to showcase his Phantom Territory against a spirit that should be at least rank B. But before that, other people head toward the temple gate. From outside the temple, someone asks about the identity of the malevolent spirit, as it dares to display its territory in the defense area. Because of this, one person suggests it's a trap, but a bald man among them comments that the 3 are rank B and have nothing to fear. Thus, they agree the bald man will focus on attacking while the other 2 deal with the haunted territory. Wasting no time, they enter the temple, but they find an abandoned place. One of them then informs the leader that the room is empty and there's no treasure there. The other notes that the place isn't large, so the ghost spirit must be behind that door. This leads the group to break down the gate, but they are startled to find a strangely hung piece of clothing. It scares the Dominators, but it turns out to be just a coat hanger. Still, the clothing suggests it could be a girl's room, and the bald man starts finding it very strange. In any case, if there were truly a ghost, the spirit would have reacted, so they begin to suspect it's outside. However, before leaving, one of them screams, having found the ghost inside the makeup mirror. In this case, the bald man commands his ghost bone spirit to leave the vessel. Unexpectedly, neither his ghost spirit nor those of the others respond. The bald man quickly realizes this must be a rare phantom territory and that they shouldn't have entered. But it's already too late to escape, and as the door closes, the 3 meet their end. With this, the entire place vanishes, and after some time, other people arrive. Among them, a blonde girl informs her leader that the 3 are dead and that all were rank B spirit masters. The leader, in turn, recalls they've been tracking this for half a month, and now it has finally appeared. In light of this, she suggests the ghost is searching for something, piquing the blonde's curiosity. The girl explains she isn't certain, and the blonde says she'll analyze the corpses with the technical team. If they figure out what it's looking for, they can set a trap. Thus, the leader leaves 3 clones with the group and instructs the girl to notify all masters in the region to avoid taking missions, as the city will be sealed. Back to the hero's perspective, he's surprised to see more rank C missions available. This makes Lin suspect that others may have died, but he decides not to dwell on it and instead tests Tong Tong's new ability. He accepts a mission to eliminate the malevolent forest assassin spirit in Liu City's second defense line. The mission includes collecting the spirit's body within 2 days, and while walking through the forest, the hero sees the lifeless body of a farmer, and several others, indicating this ghost kills its victims in the same manner. Half an hour later, as he walks, Lin notes that the fruit forest is truly enormous. But suddenly, he encounters the same corpse he saw upon arriving. Turning in alarm, he realizes that suddenly there are many identical ones. For this reason, even though it looks exactly like the fruit forest, Lin knows he may have entered the ghost's territory. The spirit then reveals its claws and attacks, but although the hero predicts it, he can't touch it. Brutally, the ghost begins strangling the protagonist, but luckily, Tong Tong appears to save the day. As expected, this is a hanged ghost that uses a special ghost rope, making it impossible for normal humans to grab. Despite that, it can hang people to death, essentially making it immortal when facing humans. The battle, however, is not yet over because the bodies of the actual corpses start being controlled. Our hero then orders his contractor to finish them all, and Tong Tong not only transforms but also generates energy claws. This causes all the bodies dominated by the ghost to simply evaporate. At the end of the battle, the boy obtains a ghost spirit pill and some other items. However, since the ghost didn't even activate Tong Tong's territory, our hero starts to believe that rank C is no longer a challenge for him. Fortunately, he did manage to acquire some items, such as the Ghost Cord, which is a type of token resource. Meanwhile, in the outer area of Liu City, some people are discussing a very strong ghost in the region. One of them mentions hearing about it as well and says that the city gate will remain locked for 24 hours because of it. Others express concern about how ghosts are more numerous and reproduce faster than humans. In this case, one of the men mentions the promising young Lin, who managed to secure a place in the mansion on his first attempt. Obviously, no one believes it, but at another table, a hooded figure comments that if the boy doesn't have a unique physical constitution, his spirit's potential must be very high. Therefore, if they can kill him secretly and obtain the ghost spirit, the two of them will definitely become rich. In the hero's residential area, a young boy talks with the hooded figures from before, saying he feels envious of Lin for having his mansion. However, in the past few nights, its lights remain off, which indicates that Lin has been out completing missions. The hooded man is clearly impressed by Lin's boldness, but the boy explains that Lin isn't normal and that his spirit is almost rank C. Regardless, the boy asks why they're looking for him, but the men only give the excuse that they're curious. Since Lin isn't in the city, one of the suspects asks what they should do, and the other doesn't hesitate to say they will hunt him outside. Additionally, after killing him, the criminal plans to use his grave sack to capture the hero's spirit and get rich. In any case, the outer city is very large, but the same man claims to have a trick. Back on the protagonist's excursion, he steps out of the cabin at dawn and asks Tong Tong if she really protected him all night. The girl shyly replies yes, as though asking to be praised. In response, the protagonist pats her head and thanks his contractor. Activating the satellite signal on his mission device, Lin prepares to find another rank C mission. But he notices some unread messages, including one that says all the spirit masters have returned to the city because of a powerful ghost. Another message is from Xiao Di, the boy from before, warning him about the hooded men who came looking for him and likely have bad intentions. Faced with this, Lin thinks it won't be easy for them to find him, but reality soon sets in. Since no one but him has completed a mission above rank E in recent days, his location becomes obvious every time he accepts one. The system rule is that when a mission is chosen, it disappears from the panel. So once they know the hero has selected a mission, they'll quickly set up camp to ambush him. If that's the case, Lin can't wait to face them. With this, the boy accepts the Xiaofeng Mountain mission and heads to the quarry to eliminate the rock ghost at the city's first line of defense. That's because the association never defined that a mission could be completed before being accepted, so Xiaofeng will only serve as bait for now. Back from the hooded men's perspective, they are relieved to finally locate Lin. Upon seeing this, they rush off, hoping to reach the mountain faster than the hero. Once there, the older man tells the younger one to wait a bit because it seems Lin hasn't arrived yet. However, inside the quarry cave, our hero is already eliminating the monster in the region. At the quarry team's residential area, a man questions whether the explosion just now was caused by the boy. The protagonist responds affirmatively and asks for the rewards, but the man believes there's been a mistake since he recently checked and no one had accepted the mission. Lin clarifies that he's not lying and shows his device, proving he accepted the mission just moments ago. Back at Xiaofeng Mountain, the brothers notice another mission has been accepted, this time at the quarry. The younger one asks if there might be another spirit master working in the area, and the older man responds that's probably true, so the two conclude that the best decision is to separate. However, before leaving, he warns his younger companion not to attack Lin if he encounters him, but to send a message instead. 2 hours later, the hooded figure arrives at the quarry and the town elder informs him that a boy indeed eliminated the ghost. The delinquent then questions where the boy went, asking for his destination. But all the elder knows is the general direction, which is enough for the man to sprint away. The elder, though injured, quickly grabs his device while grumbling about the attitude of that spirit master. Meanwhile, in another region, the hero receives a message from the elder confirming that someone is indeed pursuing him. 3 hours earlier, the hero had devised a plan with the village elder to provide false information to the pursuer in exchange for 5,000 credits. So far, it seems they believe the boy is weak, but the plan is working since, if one is at the quarry, it means they split up. They think the hero has just left the quarry and are likely waiting for him to take the next mission. In this case, the protagonist decides to go along with their expectations, bringing Tong Tong to fulfill their desires. The cold water cave, the next mission is far away, mean they can't meet there just yet. While the elder sends a message indicating he's heading to the cave to set an ambush, our hero goes in the opposite direction towards Xiaofeng Mountain to find the younger pursuer, becoming the predator this time. However, this area is dangerous and there's no guarantee things will go as planned. Suddenly, the hero's vessel begins to glow, and Tong Tong awakens in her second form. Without delay, she embraces her master, creating a defensive area and leaving Lin very confused. Looking closer, the protagonist notices a red lightning streak in the sky, the source of the danger. After it passes, the girl reverts to her normal form, and Lin realizes that powerful enemies must be passing through. The system explains that this ability is a variant of domain skills called Phantom Shield. Turning to the system's roulette, the hero decides to test his luck and earns the skill Phantom Repair. It's said the host can repair phantom artifacts with the spirit's cooperation and enhance his own tools. The repair skill is directly ingrained in the boy's mind but requires Tong Tong's power to function. Initially, the protagonist obtains a broken phantom cord, so he asks the girl to hold out her hand. She condenses her spirit and Lin instructs her to release part of it to connect the broken cord. The repair succeeds, upgrading the broken phantom cord to a normal one capable of binding ghosts. The hero thinks it's not bad and could serve a purpose in a future battle. At this moment, a group of people greets the protagonist and the boy asks if they're talking to him. The blonde girl from before asks Lin if he saw a red lightning bolt earlier, but she dismisses the question, assuming he would have died if he had. After their conversation, the protagonist suspects the light that frightened Tong Tong is likely the ghost from the outer city. Luckily, it's not heading in Lin's direction, so the boy knows he must act quickly. At the first line of defense, oddly, the corporation has not detected any ghostly fluctuations. A subordinate comments to the leader that it's very difficult to kill 3 rank B ghost masters, even for a rank A. Before responding, the girl simply spits out the coffee she was drinking, complaining it's too bitter, prompting the boy to apologize profusely. She doesn't take it too seriously, and suddenly her device rings with a report of ghost traces. In this case, the leader asks for the location, but before answering, the informant mentions encountering a student along the way. Naturally, this immediately makes the girl consider the possibility that it's our hero. Meanwhile, the blonde girl jokes if the leader will stop secretly eating sweets, but she smiles and replies she won't. Back at Xiaofeng Mountain, the protagonist hides and starts searching for the ghost master pursuer. Thinking they plan to ambush him, Lin figures the delinquent must be in the temple. When he arrives through a hole in the roof, the boy overhears the hooded figure talking to his brother. Lin, meanwhile, is already above the criminal, but unaware of this, the man continues talking, saying he has already found a buyer for the hero, offering 7 million. Unexpectedly, the protagonist discovers that besides wanting to kill him, they also plan to sell his spirit. This audacity makes Lin send Tong Tong into combat without hesitation, but to defend himself, the hooded man summons his rank C spirit. With that, a duel begins between the two spirits, and while they are occupied, the hero takes the opportunity to go after the master. Positioning himself behind the criminal, he stabs him with his golden dagger. However, this causes the criminal's spirit to awaken its ghostly domain. Now with his master safe and everything under his control, the spirit begins attacking, launching hundreds of cats. But with her awakened form, Tong Tong simply focuses her energy and starts expanding, overpowering the cat spirit. In an immense release of power, Tong Tong's ghostly domain emerges, overshadowing the hooded man's. As the location transforms into an amusement park, the hero thinks that his spirit is truly like a child. However, the place still exudes a very strong malevolent aura. From the park's rides, Tong Tong manages to manifest her attacks as if they were truly alive. The toys charge toward the hooded man's spirit, and a battle between them ensues. Fortunately for the criminal, he manages to escape quickly before being captured. But just behind him was one of the most dangerous ones. Opening its giant, terrifying mouth, a massive toy devours the hooded man. This causes the man's ghostly domain to collapse. Now, the ghostly domains from both sides begin to fade, but upon returning, the hero is puzzled as to why he's no longer at Xiaofeng Mountain. Instead, he finds himself in a mysterious place with a purple atmosphere and a bridge. The hero suspects there is another layer of ghostly domain, but with the sound of a gong, the hooded man's ghost spirit takes off at full speed. Lin tries to order Tong Tong not to pursue it, but unexpectedly, she doesn't follow his command. The cat-like spirit passes by a palace with 2 giant hands on either side. Inside this place, there's a pair of shoes that seem eager to run, but are imprisoned. The protagonist realizes he must not let his spirit enter. This becomes the perfect time to use the repaired ghost rope. Without wasting any time, Lin throws the rope, successfully capturing Tong Tong and pulling her back. This brings both of them back to the normal environment of Xiaofeng Mountain. After all the chaos, the hero asks if his spirit is okay, and she happily shows that she managed to grab the red shoes from the palace. At the same time, elsewhere, the red comet continues streaking across the sky. Suddenly, it changes direction toward a squadron, prompting the blonde to warn everyone to prepare. But unexpectedly, the entity veers away before reaching them, soaring back upward. The girl realizes it's searching for something else. Back on the mountain, this system notifies that the ghost can evolve again with a ghost spirit pill, and Lin doesn't hesitate to accept. With this, Tong Tong advances to rank B, gaining the ability Swallow, which absorbs energy and items from opponents, while Lin's strength is doubled. Additionally, the system gives the hero a new task, to choose a second ghost and form a bond with it. Among the vessels the protagonist currently has, there are many options, but by intuition, Lin decides to choose the shoes that Tong Tong brought. However, the first task that appears is to return the shoes to their owner. The problem is that the other part of the set tends to reunite, and Lin must survive the process. Later that night on Xiaofeng Mountain, the hero finds it strange that he hasn't found the hooded man's corpse. He suspects the man might have been devoured by the palace earlier, considering even the shoes were there. In any case, he finds the communication device but realizes he now needs to prepare a place to fight. This is because the owner of the shoes must have noticed and is likely heading toward the area. 10 minutes later, the hero positions himself at the edge of the mountain summit. From there, he can clearly see the surrounding areas. While waiting, Lin informs another pursuer that he found the target at Xiaofeng, luring the man to the location. And in this case, all the boy could do was take a nap while the man came running toward him. However, despite the night being full of monsters, the hooded figure manages to defeat them all and continues advancing. But to his dismay, a very powerful person was nearby and sent a message to Lin. This person is the guild leader, and recognizing the situation, she alerts the others. Without wasting time, she informs them that the 15-year-old Prodigy boy is being pursued by a ghost master. The blonde, on the other hand, considers the day a disaster, and since the distance is still far, the leader also reminds her about the message board. Back on the mountain, the leader's message reaches the hero, and she nudges him to wake him up. Opening his eyes, Lin asks if the instructor came to talk about the malevolent spirit, but the leader asks if he actually saw it. In response, the hero confirms he did, but the real issue is about a ghost master coming after him. From his demeanor, Lin reveals he already knew this, which leaves the leader concerned because she wouldn't be able to protect him. Regardless, on the communication radio, the hero's plan is a success as the other hooded figure has just arrived. In this case, the instructor asks what the boy plans to do and jokingly tells him not to get captured. Noticing Lin's calm demeanor, she asks if his spirit is already at a high rank. Without hesitation, the hero confirms it is, leaving the leader utterly impressed by his rapid growth. She concludes that Lin likely possesses a hidden state body that only appears once every 100 years. Getting to the point, she asked about the plan, but the hero simply says she'll see when she watches. After a long journey, the hooded figure arrives, and via radio, his younger brother instructs him to head to the summit tree. However, upon arrival, the man sees no sign of his partner. At the base of the tree, though, he notices a shiny red shoe that catches his attention. In a secure location, a note asks if the embroidered shoes are really the artifact the bride is seeking. The hero confirms they are since they're part of the set, and as she's almost there, the target will be this man. In this case, the leader understands that if the bride is stronger, she will defeat him, and if she's equal, she will tire him out. Soon enough, from a distance, the bride approaches at high speed, leaving the hooded figure puzzled by what he sees in the sky. She stops in front of the man, radiating her powerful presence. The moment she arrives, the bride engulfs the entire mountain in her ghostly territory. Switching perspectives, the hero wonders where the leader went. At that moment, she appears with her group, greeting the boy and leaving him confused about whether she's truly the guild leader. The girl, for her part, asks why Lin doesn't recognize her. Sincerely, the hero explains that he always thought the leader was an older man in his 40s. This slightly irritates the blonde, but the leader takes it as a compliment. Changing the subject, thanks to the boy, the malevolent spirit has revealed itself, and now the leader can eliminate it. However, the one benefiting the most is the hero, as he will complete the mission, defeat the bride, and keep a shoe in his inventory. In any case, the mission begins, and after a warning not to summon spirits right away, everyone enters the place. Noticing the vibrant colors and lights everywhere, the hero thinks this would indeed be a great place for a wedding. The leader, however, orders everyone to stop so she can scout the area. She summons one of her puppets, but as it begins to fly, immediately disintegrates. Understandably shaken, the leader commands the others to hurry and summon their ghosts. Unexpectedly, none of them can sense or summon their spirits. Realizing this, the girl immediately understands that the group needs to leave as quickly as possible. However, just as with the others, the gate slams shut, and no amount of force can open it. At that moment, everyone hears a scream, and the earlier hooded figure is thrown from a hall to the gate, hitting the ground and staining it with blood. This catches the hero's attention, but the presence of the rank B spirit, a bride in a wedding dress, captivates him even more. The blonde asks what they should do now, and the leader advises against acting rashly, as she plans to sacrifice herself to awaken Shou-Bai. The hero, however, asks if the ghosts can be summoned if the domain is separated for a while, to which the girl responds affirmatively. In that case, Lin summons Tong Tong, leaving everyone astonished at his ability to call upon his ghost. The system is quite powerful and imposes no restrictions on interacting with the ghosts despite its many problems. With this advantage, the hero manages to use his ghostly domain. Since this is equivalent to an independent space, the warriors are now able to summon their ghosts and counterattack. This results in massive explosion from the sheer number of attacks by different spirits. Among those that appear are Feng Yu, a rank C, and Shou-Bai, a rank B. The hero realizes that these are the true ghosts under the leader's command as opposed to the others, which were merely supports. Without wasting time, Xiaobai uses her spear to try and pierce the monster, while Fengyu provides long-range support. However, the bride manages to trap all the feather attacks with red threads to defend herself. Despite this, the strength of the two spirits seems equal, creating the perfect opportunity to deploy the shoes. At this point, the hero shouts for everyone to stop attacking immediately, leaving the leader very confused. Regardless, the warriors cease their attacks, and unexpectedly, the monster does not counterattack. With this, the hero removes the remaining shoe from his inventory and starts walking toward the spirit. He informs the ghost that he has found her shoe and is willing to return it. The ghost accepts, completing the mission without the need for a confrontation. Watching this unfold, the leader asks if the boy is truly planning to take the bride as his second ghost. She warns that capturing and controlling a malevolent spirit would be an extremely dangerous task. Back to the ghost, she puts on the missing shoe, and an explosion of energy occurs, leaving everyone astonished by the immense power. From within the massive aura, the fully formed rank version of the bride in her wedding dress emerges. Faced with this, the guild leader orders everyone to stay alert as the ghost's energy has doubled in strength. Even the hero is now concerned, but the spirit simply walks forward as everyone braces for the worst. Xiaobai prepares to attack, but before anything happens, the group finds themselves outside again. They are visibly relieved, but the leader notices Lin is missing, meaning the ghost's domain is still active. This is a very bad situation, but the blonde knows that boy isn't ordinary. The leader Yan asks since when she's thought that way about him, leaving the girl embarrassed. Regardless, Yan tells everyone to rest and assures them she will handle the matter of the boy. Before anything else, however, she forbids spreading information about the bride's unique special domain. Back in the domain, the hero wonders why everyone suddenly disappeared. At that moment, a second mission appears, tasking him with going to the bride's room and helping her comb her hair. Immediately, the boy heads to the location, but he's unsure how to comb the ghost's hair since he can't see it. Upon closer inspection, he notices that the mirror reveals the ghost's face, and beside the table sits the comb. Using the mirror, which reflects the ghost's image, the hero guides himself. This allows him not only to sense but also to truly comb her hair, improving the ghost's expression significantly. Thus, the mission is completed with a favorability gain, but another appears with the objective of stopping the bride's wedding. The spirit then blows a mysterious gas, and Lin gradually loses consciousness while hearing promises of marriage. Later, he opens his eyes and finds himself in the place and time where the spirit once lived. At the same dressing table, the ghost asks her husband if she looks beautiful after getting ready. The girl is Hua, 17 years old, from the wealthy Chuan family, and with a smile, she asks if the boy is surprised by her appearance. Extending her hand, she gives the same cone to her husband. But the hero questions what she called him, prompting the girl to interpret it differently, saying that since they are married, casual names are no longer appropriate. In this world, Lin Feng is Lin Zimo, 18 years old, the third son of the Yangzhou Academy family, and a childhood friend of the girl. Faced with everything, the protagonist wonders how he will stop this wedding if the girl wants to get married. At another moment, a relative of Lin Zimo is completely opposed to the marriage between the two. This is Xuan Yu, 20 years old, the eldest son of the Xuan family, and he opposes the wedding because the bride should be from a large family that could help the other. To be honest, the day before, General Guan Wei had already been sent to propose marriage to Xuan Hua. Xuan Yu tries to argue that, despite being 48 years old, the general isn't a bad option, but now the hero understands what stopping the wedding truly means. Regardless, an invitation letter was written, and the eldest brother innocently handed it to his younger sibling to read. However, the letter actually spoke of the girl's laments about being forced to marry the general against her will. She explained that she had tried to escape and leave her family but was locked up by her parents. She expressed her wish to meet the boy in another life. Furthermore, because of the general's high authority, she begged the boy not to intervene. Lin thinks the girl's situation is very similar to his own childhood. To him, no matter how times change, humans remain greedy, using their children as tools to fulfill their parents' desires. However, this time, the hero decides to make a difference and not let the same happen to Xuan Hua. On the appointed day, the wedding ceremony begins with a musical group arriving to escort the bride. Among the staff is our hero, disguised to infiltrate the event. Lin is there because he wants to see with his own eyes what kind of general would force a marriage. But as the carriage's curtain lifts, the boy notices that inside there is only an empty suit of armor. In this case, the hero asks an attendant nearby why the groom isn't present. The man responds that the groom died 3 days ago, leaving the protagonist completely confused. Still, a wedding was a wedding, but this one was about to become a ghost wedding. Amidst all this, a priest prays to the sun and moon gods, as well as the ghosts and spirits of the Yellow River, to cleanse the oil and light the lamp. He then asks the sealed souls with the mysterious phoenix and the soldiers of death to pave the way for eternal peace. So far, Lin had only heard that ghost weddings were meant for two deceased individuals, not between a living and a dead person. On the bride's side, a servant informs her lady that it's time to go. She says that after drinking this peanut porridge with red dates, the girl will have many children. The father orders his daughter to hurry because the general is waiting, so she begins eating. Back to the hero's perspective, Lin runs thinking he must find Xuan Hua quickly. He pushes through the crowd until he reaches the bride and sees that she's fine. Obviously, the girl is confused to see her former husband there, but Lin tells her he's come to take her away, making her very happy. The father, however, becomes angry and orders the boy to stop interfering with the girl's wedding. Lin doesn't care and simply pulls Xuanhua to start running. By now, the boy has already sent people to distract the guards at the gate, so all they need to do is get on the carriage to escape. But suddenly, the young lady lets go of the hero's hand and collapses, coughing blood. Obviously, the protagonist is confused, but as he holds her, the girl mentions that the earlier porridge was poisoned. Hearing this, the girl's mother cries and explains the situation with the general, saying only souls can marry him. The father says the process only took this long because of the mother's insistence. However, the hero yells at them, calling the situation absurd. He then demands to know where the cure is, grabbing the father's robe and ordering him to act quickly. At that moment, some guards appear and easily restrain the boy on the ground. In response to the earlier question, the man states that the arrow flower poison is incurable. Still, Xuanhua isn't sad because someone cared about her. For this reason, before dying, she realized her former husband was with her and was able to pass on. Thus, some attendants began bringing the coffin that had been prepared in advance. The hero, meanwhile, spares no words in cursing the miserable family that ruined their daughter's life. But for the father, it was a child's duty to sacrifice herself for the sake of others, and he remarks that if the boy were 20 years older, he might understand. In any case, the patriarch cannot allow outsiders to know about this. Two men then grab the boy and drag him to a well, throwing him down right in front of his beloved. Later, the ceremony begins as if the girl had died 2 days earlier. Alongside the general, who had passed away 3 days before, they all welcome the bride. However, atop the coffin, people begin to see something very strange. It is the bride's spirit, born from the girl's accumulated resentment. To avenge all she had suffered, she ended everyone's lives, bringing true despair. At the bottom of the well, the hero laments the pain he feels, barely able to breathe. Outside, the sky turns red, much like the clothes Xuanhua used to sew. And so, in this tragic way, the story of the two came to an end. In another moment, the hero awakens to find a little girl speaking in front of him. Here, Lin is 6 years old, and a girl named Tong Tong asks for the boy's name. She also offers him a piece of bread, which he eats desperately, making her a little worried. Seeing this, she asks if they can take the boy with them, but her grandfather firmly refuses. Later, after much conversation, the man understands that the little boy is there because he was abandoned by his parents. Lin's mother had said he was a useless child who would only waste resources, and naturally, the old man found this incredibly cruel. Regardless, the elder advised that if the little boy wanted to cry, he should do so for one day. Lin then broke down, saying he hated his family but missed them nonetheless. This prompted the little girl to hug him for comfort and declare that she would be the hero's new mother. Returning to reality, the protagonist realizes he is being hugged by his spirit and the illusion fades. However, they are still in a ghost domain, but since the current Xuanhua is unaware, Lin doesn't allow Tong Tong to attack. The bride begins to walk away, so the two decide to follow her to see where she is going. The ghostly territory has now completely transformed into a place filled with lights. Ahead, they see the wedding shaman's soul bells. As expected, marriage is the girl's heart demon because even after becoming a ghost, the scene keeps repeating in the domain. Thus, the hero decides it's time to break this cycle of pain. Quickly, he commands his spirit to destroy the ghostly carriage. However, the girl cannot pass through the main area, revealing the presence of a barrier only Xuanhua can cross. But it isn't just one barrier, the entire place is distorted by a ghost spell. Upon closer inspection, the bells capture Lin's attention, and he realizes they are controlling the ghost's spirit, drawing Xuanhua to the carriage. She continues moving toward it, and as a heart demon, Lin knows she is determined. He places himself in her path and shouts for her to stop, asking if she has forgotten her past. For a few seconds, the ghost pauses but then passes through the protagonist. She keeps moving because, with her current favorability, Lin lacks the power to convince her with words. However, there is still one method worth trying, so the boy ties himself with the ghost rope and jumps into the well. At the bottom, he finds Lin Zimo's skeleton, along with a scripture about meeting again in another life. Unfortunately, this never happened because his beloved became a malevolent spirit. Nonetheless, the boy takes Zimo's calm and returns to the bride's room, where the two parts are reunited. This releases a dense energy that interferes with the bells. Xuanhua senses it and instinctively begins moving toward the hero. The protagonist then asks if she remembers this calm. The bride's hand reaches for the object, and after taking it, she begins to cry profusely. Even after waking up, however, she continues running toward the gate. This time, she destroys the portal and demolishes the entire interior with impressive speed. Unfortunately, it's not effective because the carriage regenerates instantly. After being attacked, it transforms into a giant monster that, with a roar, destroys the ground beneath it. Faced with this, Tong Tong charges forward and the hero thanks her, but after cutting the monster's legs, they regenerate. It appears this ghost is immune to physical attacks, so the hero retreats slightly. He lights a Molotov cocktail and throws it into the carriage's interior, setting everything ablaze. With this, the ghost is seemingly defeated, but but from the charred remains emerges an even more powerful version. Our hero is quite worried, but Xuanhua unleashes an impressive fire ability. When the carriage ghost attacks, the bride counters by setting it aflame. In this case, the hero orders Tong Tong to assist the bride by restricting the monster's movements. Once the spirit is restrained, Xuanhua uses her ropes to wrap around the carriage and completely incinerate it. Thus, the mission is a success and favorability with the bride increases by 20 points. This now makes it possible to bind her as the second ghost. The system prompts the boy to offer his blood and lift the bride's veil. With no container to store the blood, the bride begins licking the hero's cut finger. This makes the protagonist think she might be treating him as her groom. With the bond established, the boy earns another chance to spin the roulette and now has an A-rank spirit on his side. With the domain still active, the hero starts analyzing his new ghost. Her stats are excellent, but some abilities stand out, such as an arrow that brings the phantom territory along and moves at high speed. Additionally, the boy now has a dual territory, which could provide a significant advantage against future enemies. Without wasting more time, he spins the roulette and gains the skill Break Phantom Pattern. Suddenly, the boy hears a strange sound that grabs his attention. The sound is the galloping of a horse, and the hero wonders if it's a human or a ghost. He decides to leave, taking Xuanhua with him, but when the phantom territory disappears, Lin finds himself in a new location. In this case, the protagonist assumes the bride used the flash ability after hearing the sound of a potential malevolent spirit. Since she chose to use the ability, it suggests they need more information to handle the situation. Regardless, the location is near Liu City, prompting the hero to decide to return. At the Coastmasters Association, Yan is very surprised to see the boy alive. This is because there had been no information about him for the past 3 days. As for the bride, Lin proudly announces that he resolved the situation. This, of course, leaves the leader astonished to be in the presence of such a talented boy. Shigen suspects this is the result of his hidden spiritual body, but Lin humbly attributes his success to her cooperation. Setting aside the gratitude, Yan asks for a more practical benefit. She invites Lin to join the Ghostmasters Union, but the idea of having to work doesn't appeal to the hero. In this case, she explains that his position would be as a special member, requiring him only to participate in major missions in exchange for considerable authority. Authority doesn't sound bad to the hero, as it would help him uncover information about Xuanhua's enemy and the mysterious temple. He accepts, which makes the leader very excited. Unexpectedly, she asks if she looks pretty, and blushing, the boy awkwardly says yes. Without response, she pushes him against the wall while explaining the benefits Lin will receive. But as always, a random person shows up to interrupt, though they quickly realize their mistake and leave. Returning to the main topic, she informs Lin that joining the union requires level recognition conditions. Even though the boy is already very strong, since he's still in the internship period, he can only become a recognized member after the ranking event. With a smile, Yan asks her future companion to prepare, saying she'll be rooting for him. At night, in the mansion area, before sleeping, the boy reflects that tomorrow is the ceremony. Xuanhua is resting at the moment, but Lin believes that with Tong Tong, everything should be fine. However, just as he's about to fall asleep, the girl's spirit emerges from the cone, scaring our hero. And with a somewhat strange expression, she lay beside the protagonist and spent the entire night staring at him. In the morning, Lin wakes up in a panic to the sound of his alarm clock. Fortunately, Xuanhua, treating the boy as her husband, ensures he doesn't oversleep. However, getting dressed is still something the hero prefers to do on his own. Later, a host excitedly welcomes everyone to the Ghost Master evaluation ceremony. This time, there are over 3,000 participants, so she announces that it will be thrilling and declares the event open. She explains that most participants are recent graduates, but there are also some from other years, including an intern. In the stands, the greedy redhead from before notices Lin, and someone comments that passing the exam requires more than just combat power. This proves true during the event, as some people see the protagonist and doubt his ability to succeed. The first round, the written exam, begins, and anyone who answers incorrectly on any of the 30 questions will be disqualified. By question 23, 1/3 of the participants have already been eliminated, and the questions become increasingly difficult for the veterans. However, for our hero and 50 of his students who pass, the exam was far too easy. The second round involves a mental test where 3 examiners release the auras of their malevolent spirits to challenge the students. The first examiner summons a rank D spirit, and while many tremble in fear, Lin remains unaffected. Next, a rank C spirit is summoned, and the master tries to encourage the students. However, most begin to collapse under the aura's pressure, including the senior class Prodigy. The blonde who falls is Luna, the genius of Class 1, and everyone had been certain she would pass. But as if a rank C wasn't enough, the final examiner, Elder Gu, steps forward. From his chest emerges a rank B spirit, sending the audience into a frenzy. As a result, even more students fall, leaving only 9 to advance to the next stage. This is the most anticipated moment as the students ascend the classification stage to summon their spirits for analysis. The first to go is Maiqian 2, but his rank F spirit results in disqualification. Next, Gao Shang steps up, revealing a rank D ghost, which is well above average. Then it's the hero's turn, the only remaining student. As Lin ascends the stairs for the test, some murmur about rumors of him possessing a unique physical body. Confidently, Gao Shang bets that the intern won't pass, even claiming he'll lead an armored vehicle if proven wrong. However, Lin focuses on making an appearance without drawing too much attention. He summons Tong Tong, but the moment the audience sees her, they immediately sense her immense aura. The boy rooting for Lin hopes the spirit is at least rank C, but when the machine generates the result, everyone is shocked to discover the intern's ghost is rank B. Expressions of envy and astonishment are evident in the crowd, while the supportive boy beams with pride. The host is ecstatic, announcing that this is the first time a student has reached rank B, and the device confirmed it accurately. However, as everyone celebrates, someone sneaks up behind the hero and stabs him. Mei Qian-tu shoves the protagonist aside, captures his spirit, and seals it. As Lin processes the situation, the man removes an artificial mask, revealing himself as the hooded figure. With a sinister grin, he declares his intent for vengeance for his brother's death. This is Hishan of the Oil Goo Corporation, now wielding a rank B malevolent ghost. The hero realizes that not only did this man survive, but he also returned far more powerful. The host declares a state of emergency as the audience descends into panic. Elder Gu intervenes, stating that Hishan's forced synchronization with a malevolent spirit will drastically shorten his lifespan. Another examiner joins the fight, but is easily defeated due to his inferior spirit. Not only him, but all others are also taken down, and as if that weren't enough, the attacks are laced with poison. As the final strike heads toward him, the hero reflects on how hard the hooded man worked for his revenge. But today, Hishan will fail because the hero still has Xuanhua at his disposal. And being an A-level spirit, she simply wraps Hishan in her threads and explodes him into pieces. Obviously, the examiners are left in disbelief at what they are witnessing, but one of them notices that she is also a malicious spirit. The elder, in turn, finds it strange that the ghost can kill without even needing to open a ghostly domain. However, after analyzing, everyone realizes that this is the bride who sealed the city, causing their despair to grow even more. In the stands, the red-haired girl hugs the boy with bowl-cut hair, and the two cry for their lives. Nonetheless, what the bride does is release Tong Tong from his imprisonment, and the system gives the boy a corpse-wrapping bag. Thus, the hero thanks Xuanhua for her help, and her level is accidentally revealed, leaving everyone in silence. In this case, the two in the stands understand why the malicious spirit did not attack. Amidst expressions of surprise and concern, the host asks if this is the boy's second ghost. Therefore, since he can no longer hide his trump card, Lin responds affirmatively, leaving everyone silent once again. But after this moment of calm, the situation shifts and the audience shouts, declaring the boy a hero. From all directions, Lin receives countless praises, and some even suggest that the boy should become the Academy's director. Without further delay, the host announces Lin Feng's rank as an A-class Ghost Master. And standing in the center of the arena, everyone enthusiastically chants the name of our hero. The next day, however, the protagonist is overwhelmed by several people insisting on becoming his disciples. This has been happening for 7 days, and during all this time, the hero hasn't been able to sleep even once. Because of this, he realizes he can no longer stay in the city, and in the meantime, he uses the ghost territory. The problem, however, is that despite being alone, the atmosphere and the words of resentment are far from pleasant. At this point, the protagonist needs to go shopping, but he knows he will be surrounded, even though he has money to spend. He really wants to spend money, but outside, the host of the event is doing a report, and everyone is participating. Even a guild leader is there, but she understands that the situation is becoming unsustainable for the boy. Later, at headquarters, a hero asks if Yan is really heading to High City. She replies that she's going on a business trip and that the boy will follow her as part of his training. It is mentioned that Hai is one of the 5 great cities, and one of the branches of the Ghost Master Association is located there. In the west, besides the south and north, all have an area considered the largest city, and in Hai, as there are many strong people, it's possible to sell ghost tokens. Thus, the hero sees this as a good opportunity because Xuanhua's territory has many of these tokens. In any case, Yan tells the boy to get ready so they can leave the day after tomorrow, but Lin finds the girl's expression a bit strange. 2 days later, the hero asks how far the city is, and Yan says they are a few hundred kilometers away. They will pass through a desert area with many traps and a B-class master. But since the association has a private road, everything will be easier. In this case, Lin realizes that the school's teaching is limited and that there are many things he still doesn't know. But in any case, now his next goal lies in High City. 5 hours later, the pair arrive at the junction of the desert area from Liu City to High City. Then our hero jumps out of the car and the leader informs him that they have arrived at the port. With that, the two head toward a giant submarine to continue their journey across the sea. Indeed, the water is safer. Even though there are water ghosts, their number is much smaller than on land. Inside, Yan explains that the distance is greater, but the trip will be safer because the gold-painted submarine prevents ghosts from sensing humans. Thus, the journey proceeds without major issues through the sea surrounding the desert. At this moment, the radio announces that they are about to arrive at the western port of Hai, so everyone needs to prepare to disembark. But our hero falls asleep and his head accidentally lands on the leader's chest. This wakes him up very embarrassed, but just in time to leave. It is said that Hai City has 8 million people and many strong coast masters. The spiritual individuals from the eastern area reside there, and the association also publishes far more missions than in Liu City. Moreover, since this is a place the leader knows well, she says the boy can stay in the room. Inside her residence, while serving tea, the girl asks to see the phantom tokens. So our hero calls for Tong Tong and asks her to bring the phantom spirit. With that, the rank B token, Small Axe Head, appears. And Yan is completely shocked, which prompts her to question how the boy managed to obtain it. In response, the hero explains that besides this one, there are 5 more, all found within the bride's wedding territory. Obviously, the girl is at a loss for words, as this is the first time she's seen something like this, since most of these spirits are nurtured by masters from a young age. Getting straight to the point, Yan mentions that the spirit will sell for at least millions and tells Lin to rest while she contacts the auction house. In the house's bathtub, the protagonist finally begins to enjoy a relaxing evening. But as he remembers that Hai City also has many high-level missions, Lin thinks his spirits will grow stronger soon. Suddenly, the hero notices Xuanhua's presence in the bathroom, even though he's certain he locked the door. However, locking the door is useless against a ghost unless it's sealed with gold. Anyway, the hero asks what Xuanhua is planning to do, but she doesn't respond and simply crouches behind him to wash his back. Then, after a few minutes, the hero leaves the bathroom deeply embarrassed, with a mission of bathing with the ghost completed. Yan quickly notices this and becomes confused about what made the boy's face turn so red. After that, Lin goes to bed, and once again, his ghost is lying next to him. Still, for him, waking up to such a beautiful face isn't bad, so the protagonist gives her a goodnight kiss and gains favorability. Somewhere near Hai City's defense area, a bald man says, "Well done," to the rank B evil spirit that had been troublesome but was finally defeated. However, another member of the Ghost Masters group comments on the sound of a horse's gallop. Then, everyone leaves the house, but before anything else, the bald man warns them to prepare for battle because it's likely not human. Without wasting time, everyone activates their spirits to face the approaching rider emerging gradually from the mist. However, they didn't expect to encounter an S-rank General Coast spirit. As a result, they are terrified, but the bald man remains confident that they can win with their accumulated coast territories. He couldn't be more wrong, as everything is destroyed with just one charge from the headless spirit. At the same moment it broke their defenses, the ghost finished them all with its sword, leaving no survivors behind. Back at the leader's building, the hero realizes he slept and woke up naturally, but now it's already afternoon. However, as he becomes aware, he notices his 2 ghosts are with the leader beside his bed. This naturally startles the boy, prompting Yan to apologize for scaring him. She comments that the hero looks so comfortable sleeping that she didn't wake him for the morning meeting, but during that time, Xuanhua already prepared 5 breakfasts. With that, in front of all those wonderful dishes, the hero asks if Xuanhua made them. With a happy expression, Yan simply enjoys the meal while praising the girl. Getting to the point, the leader informs that during the auction, all the rank B spirits sold for about 20 million. As a result, our hero spits out what he's eating, as he never expected to get rich so quickly. However, with auction fees, taxes, and agency work deducted, the hero will only keep 13 million, which he has no issue with. Thus, the girl tells the protagonist to eat at ease, as she still has something to handle at the agency, which makes Lin curious. Then she explains that near Liu, the heads of a small group of ghost masters were severed by an evil spirit. At that moment, a man named Zhu appears, apologizing for not showing up earlier and telling the girl she doesn't need to worry anymore. He is the co-leader of Hai City's Ghost Masters Association and assures Yan she can leave this responsibility to him. However, the girl states she didn't come to the city for a vacation, but since she has no information, Zhu insists she shouldn't go. Anyway, the man says he's already arranged everything and mentions that he'll show the recording of the decapitating ghost. Then the recordings begin in the mist, and the hero quickly notices the sound of a horse, the same one he had heard in Xuanhua's territory. For now, with just a few seconds of video, the spirit finishes everyone off and leaves. In this case, the hero suggests that the horse is the ghost of a master, but upon reviewing the video, the boy notices that the rider has no head, and it is precisely headless that the association calls him. But since the information has already been collected, Zhu comments that he will send his daughters to track him. Leader Yan agrees to let this man handle it this time. However, upon further reflection, the hero realizes that the honor is the same as the general who was married to Xuanhua, making it possible that this is the malicious spirit of the carriage. Moreover, even after changing cities, he continues to pursue them, so the system opens a mission to annul the girl's engagement by destroying the marriage certificate. After recalling that the ghost territory forcibly activated the marriage mode, the hero believes he will find the certificate in the domain. Then, inside the ghost territory, everyone starts searching until the protagonist finds a red paper. On this paper, there are ghostly words leading Lin to decide to simply tear it apart. However, the marriage certificate regenerates like the ghost carriage, but with Swan who has firepower, the object is burned and the mission progresses by 50%. But since it wasn't fully completed, the hero believes there is another bond with the general, and he needs to face him to win the girl's freedom. Faced with this, Lin goes to a cave to complete an A-rank mission. Now that the girl's marriage certificate has disappeared, finding her won't be easy, but the general can easily destroy an A-rank master. That's why the hero is in this cave. He needs to grow stronger. Meanwhile, in the northern part of High City, a team led by Zhao finds other lifeless bodies. Thus, the man asks Ling and Yu how they interpret the situation. Ling, in turn, comments that the master was defeated about an hour ago, while Yu says they can track the spirit by the energy of the horse's hoof prints on the ground. In this case, Zhou becomes excited about the progress, and an hour later, the group continues their pursuit. During the journey, Yu orders the car to stop because the ghostly hour is growing more intense, indicating that the monster is near. Thus, Zhou orders all the lights to be turned off and informs the group they will have to adapt to moonlight to fight. Then he announces that 5 teams will split up and surround the area, prioritizing trap setup and avoiding rushing in. The platoon proceeds with the mission, and Ling sends her butterfly spirit to gather some information. But despite dealing with something so dangerous, Zhao's plan is still to capture the monster alive. Following Ling's butterfly, it advances until it is trampled by the ghost's horse. With this, the girl feels a bad premonition, but Yu tries to comfort her sister, reminding her that there are 30 ghost masters, including 3 A-rank ones. Therefore, the girl hopes that everything will truly work out, and at the same moment, the headless begins to approach. Wasting no time, Zhu orders all teams to use their concealed ghost territories to seal the area. However, the general doesn't evade, so the association's co-leader warns everyone to prepare for battle. Unexpectedly, the ghost manages to destroy the territory with great ease, frightening the warriors. And since the spirit's ability is very unique, the leader understands that they need to act now to help. However, so far, a team of 7 B-class individuals has been instantly defeated by the monster. In this case, the elder activates his spirit Jin Wu and asks it to use the ghost territory to stop the general from advancing. Then a massive area is created, and fortunately, the monster can't break through as easily. This is expected from a territory formed by 3 A-rank masters, so the man believes the coast is cornered. Shouting loudly, Zhu orders Wei Ming and Adi to attack the general with him while sparing the horse. But suddenly, the ghost's speed begins to increase, and the warriors start telling the leader they will need help. From within the general's cloak, he releases a spirit that attacks the co-leader's neck. Thus, the monster manages to slice the bird's spirit in half, leaving everyone desperate. And, as if things couldn't get worse, the general opens his own ghost territory. What leaves Zhu terrified is that all this release of power will cause the interior to collapse. As several are eliminated by the monster, the leader tries to escape with some warriors. But it was already too late to prevent the destruction, and several ghosts start emerging from a crystal portal. From inside the truck, Ling tries to warn that other team members haven't arrived, but the leader says they can't wait any longer. Therefore, they step on the accelerator while Team 3's car is being targeted. Unfortunately, they couldn't go any faster due to the risk of overturning, so the ghosts ended them. And with terrible luck, a car fell right onto the cab of the leader's truck, causing the engine to stop and the truck to crash into a tree. In this case, the plan now was to quickly hide in the storage area because it was a place painted with gold. Inside, the little girls ask if their father is hurt, but he simply tells them to keep quiet. However, there was a hole in the gate of the truck's storage compartment. So Ling decided to peek through the gap, but saw the general's horse at that very moment. This made the girl think they were doomed and wanted to die right there. However, unexpectedly, the general ignores them because someone far more important to him appears. Meanwhile, the protagonist opens the storage area, finds the 3 of them, and calls them to escape. In a very clever move, the hero avoids confrontation and simply uses the girl's flash ability to escape with the survivors. In the 13th defense zone of High City, everyone is treated, and while Ling expresses gratitude, her father complains about losing his second spirit. In response to the thanks, Lin says it was nothing and that he was just passing by coincidentally. But suddenly, Zhu grabs him, crying, and asks the boy to request Yen's help for the mission in exchange for any rewards. 3 hours earlier in the Ghost Cave, Lin defeats a rank B spirit and obtains a used ghost territory fragment that can be used to strengthen his own. However, this was the first time our hero had heard of such a thing. Additionally, Lin obtained the ghost cloak, which conceals presence and matches others. Despite being a bit ugly, the hero decides to try it on, and since it changes shape, it's quite convenient. In the cave, the ghost's aura is denser, as expected, showing that this is the perfect place to farm. So our hero progressed from the outermost part to the deepest, defeating everything in his path, until they defeated a rankest spirit, obtaining 2 more ghost territory fragments. However, this time the fragments were blue, and in addition, Lin obtained Coast Grass, whose purpose he doesn't yet understand. The first thought that comes to mind is that it's used to feed ghosts, but the hero dismisses this idea. With that, the system notified him that Tong Tong could evolve with the help of a pill, and upon accepting, the girl advanced and Lin's body was strengthened threefold. Additionally, Tong Tong gained a new spell called Mutation, and her favorability increased significantly. Lin, in turn, was aware that all these rewards were thanks to the association, and there were only a few days left for Xuanhua to ascend to rank S. Later, as expected, there was another exit, and since walking at night wasn't convenient, the hero thought of getting a motorcycle. The Flash ability can teleport, but only within a small area and at the cost of energy, so Lin thought it would be good to get the general's horse. After all, during this time, wilderness areas have many bad paths. However, suddenly the hero hears a different sound. And upon going to the location, Lin saw the headless general and all the destruction he was causing. As expected, this wouldn't be a simple enemy, but since the boy didn't have enough information, he decided to return to the city. However, at that moment, the co-leader's truck appeared and crashed into the tree, and seeing this, Lin thought that if he didn't intervene, it would be discovered by the ghost. In summary, that's what happened, and thanks to the hero, both Ju and his daughters were saved. Then in the infirmary, Ju pleads with Yan to help since she has a physical body. But the girl only has an S-rank ghost spirit that is currently unusable, so she asks Lin what he thinks. Upon hearing that name, Joe is surprised to see the Prodigy of Liu City right in front of him. However, not only him, as his daughters were also very surprised, and Yu in particular blushed. Because of this, the co-leader offers the boy 1,000,000 credits to help, but Lin says he cannot be bought with money. In this case, the man asks what Lin wants, whether it's a house or a position, but Yu suggests including her in the negotiation. However, obviously, as the overprotective father he is, Ju gets very irritated. Nevertheless, Lin says he can help under 3 conditions. The first condition is that the co-leader will also work. The second is that the entire strategy will be devised by the hero. And the third is that all the loot will belong to him. For Zhao, the first 2 conditions are understandable, but the third one is hard to accept. As Lin expected, the co-leader also wants the general's loot, so the boy offers an A-rank spirit to compensate for what was lost in return. This, of course, shocks both the man and his daughter, especially since the spirit has no owner and is not a malicious entity. Returning to the main topic with these 3 conditions, Lin also offers 10,000,000 credits but gives the elder only 30 seconds to decide. This leaves Yan very impressed with the boldness the kid is showing. For a few seconds, Joe contemplates what to do, but the hero keeps counting until time runs out. This forces the Ghost Master to accept, and thus everyone prepares to leave the next day. Later, just as discussed, the headless general has never fully used his territory because any flaws would cause it to collapse. As for the domain's power, it likely comes from the ghost course and not the general. Since the territory is unstable, a strong domain from a single ghost will be required. Because of this, Lin turns to the bride and asks her to open her domain. The moment the two enter, the system notifies them that the fragments of the territory can be used to make alterations. As expected, the boy finds the domain's wall and decides to try using the fragments to expand it. Upon opening the options, the boy finally understands the different colors of the fragments as each can create something unique. He decides to use the forest fragment first, shaped like a sakura tree. This fills Xuanhua's territory with many trees and causes it to continue expanding. Additionally, the boy expands it with a swamp, a snowy mountain, and a river. Sitting together on the bridge over the lake, the boy asks Xuanhua if she likes it, and she seems very happy. He then decides to try using the ghostly algae he obtained earlier. Throwing them into the depths, the protagonist asks if her spirit can control the algae. Fortunately, Xuanhua is able to do so, and the trap is set. If everything goes according to plan, the headless general will be caught like a rat in the trap. In the city center, people despairingly comment on the news about 20 ghost masters being eliminated. One man, in turn, asks if the leader managed to escape because he has a crush on his daughters, but his colleague, of course, thinks he has no chance. In Area 13 of High City at the defense station, ghost masters use the half-hour safe period to advance. Inside the car, Ling suggests that her father recruit Lin, but Zhu says it's impossible since the boy is already with Yan. Yu, on the other hand, shows up just to call her father old and suggests that he can step down as co-leader if he wants, which doesn't please him much. In the main car, Yan informs the group that they'll rely on 15 elite team members, but she gets a little annoyed because Lin seems distracted. In this case, Yan jealously asks if the boy is thinking about the twins, but Lin assures her he is paying attention. Moreover, he says that what he's thinking about is the battle, prompting the leader to comment that although the plan is good, they'll still need to be careful. Regardless, Yan jokes that she'll be sad if Lin gets hurt, and the blonde driver asks the leader to be more discreet. Later, the hero orders the car to stop, and the group finds more dead ghost masters. The leader, therefore, comments sadly on how ruthless this battle is, while the blonde sends her spirit, Feng Yu, to investigate. The twins also get to work with Ling aiding in reconnaissance and Yu analyzing the corpses. However, the blonde spirit approaches the co-leader, prompting the girl to ask if Feng Yu has discovered something. In response, the spirit shows a black feather, which frightens Zhao because it's part of his own ghost. Then the blonde informed that the phantom spirit captured by the headless general was in that direction. All the masters set off until, by night, they found another eliminated group. The people had just died, and Ling believes the headless general must be nearby. Yu, on the other hand, points to a black dot moving in the field. Faced with this, the group tries to locate it. Despite the darkness, the hero's vision is 3 times better than that of a normal person. Therefore, Lin informs them that the headless general is heading toward Food City. Hearing this, Yan comments that they can't let him reach it because the place is full of people, but the hero reassures her, saying he has a plan. Thus, he summons Xuanhua and asks her to release her aura with intensity. Then, upon sensing it, the general changes direction, and Yan takes the opportunity to warn the group to summon their ghosts before entering Xuanhua's territory. Afterward, as Zhao hasn't fully recovered, the hero calls Yan and Xiao Yun to join him. Shortly before the general arrives, the phantom territory is activated, and inside, the leader is impressed by how much the place has changed. When the monster appears, however, the hero uses Tong Tong's stealth ability. Since he hasn't started attacking yet, the protagonist states that they'll observe before acting. Lin still needs to confirm his hypothesis about the general's phantom territory and the phantom horse. As such, the ghost enters the main hall, destroying everything and leaving the hero quite irritated. But when it finds nothing, it stops as expected, because it's there defying Xuanhua. Yan, for her part, finds it strange that the general is searching for someone while on horseback, but Lin explains that the ghost doesn't want to lose its advantage. To him, the moment the general dismounts will be the right time to attack, and after finding nothing in the girl's room, the ghost begins to act. Lifting its cape, the spirit summons many others to search around the territory, so the hero tells Zhu to ambush the smaller ones. The co-leader catches the message, but you can't help being impressed by the number of spirits and the fact that the territory remains unchanged. Back to our hero, he calls Xuanhua to act, so she flies off, drawing the general's attention to the lake. And once the phantom horse steps off the grass and into the water, the hero believes it will be time for the general to dismount. However, unexpectedly, the general not only manages to walk on water, but also runs even faster than before. That's because he thinks Xuanhua and Lin are trying to escape, but at this moment, the hero is just waiting for him. Although the general is strong, the water is the hero's territory. Yet suddenly, he reconsiders what's happening, because no movement is seen on the water's surface, even though Lin had set the seaweed as a trap. Moreover, Xuanhua acts strangely and descends to the same level as the general. Faced with this, Yan notices that Lin's spirit hasn't used any abilities yet and that the general is slowing down. In this case, the hero assumes the girl decided to use herself as bait, luring him in so they can utilize the seaweed. Additionally, since the two have a marriage contract, the general won't be able to kill her instantly, so Lin thinks it's time to act. Thus, at the moment the ghost lets its guard down, the girl activates the seaweed to trap the spirit. This is highly effective because if the horse is in full sprint mode, it can't be stopped. When the ghost is in aquatic combat, its ability is reduced by at least 1 rank, and the seaweed slows it down even further. Because of this, the remaining ghosts begin to approach to support their leader. But in response, Lin orders everyone to protect the perimeter, preventing the spirits from getting through. Thus, the strongest ones from each group charge forward, and even an S-rank spirit named Xiao Hu appears. She can cultivate plants and belongs to the guild leader Yan. As they advance, Yan warns Tong Tong to be careful because she's beside an A-rank ghost. However, with just 1 strike, she destroys the spirit and gains the life recovery ability. This, of course, leaves the leader very surprised because in just a few days, Tong Tong has risen to rank A. At the center of the battlefield, the hero's spirits surround the engaged pair, ensuring no one interferes. And the more Tong Tong fights, the more experience she gains, which leaves Xiao Yun impressed with the capabilities of Lin's ghosts. To her, they exceed their ranking in strength, and knowing that the hero will become very famous if he wins, she also thinks Yan will gain fame. Meanwhile, in the main battle, the general's subordinates continue to fall, but the ghost stubbornly refuses to dismount from his horse. To address this, Lin orders Tong Tong to force the ghost off the horse. Finally, the spirit leaves his horse behind and steps forward for a direct confrontation. At this moment, Xiao uses her flower pollen ability to blind the enemy. Then, everyone joins forces to attack the general with all their strength. However, the ghost retaliates and with a single move, manages to throw the allied ghosts far away. Even though he is hit, he remains unharmed, prompting Yan to think there must be something in his armor that reflects damage. Because of this, Xiao Yun questions how they can harm him as the general moves forward to finish off Tong Tong. But before the worst can happen, she uses her mutation ability and enters combat mode. This puts her on equal footing with the ghosts, but if they don't figure out how to cause damage, they won't be able to defeat him. Thinking quickly, the hero asks Xuanhua to use her ghost flame, as both the wedding carriage and the contract were dealt with using it. Obeying her master, the girl unleashes the attack, and as expected, it causes significant damage. Tong Tong and Xuanhua then attack together, leaving the ghost in a very weakened state. Yan feels relieved that the battle seems to be over, but she warns that they haven't won yet. That's because the system hasn't sent any notification, and as expected, the general suddenly attempts a surprise attack. But even with his strategy of feigning death, our hero remained vigilant, allowing him to grab a golden sword and stab the ghost. Thus, the boy not only obtains the armor, but also a ghost's sword and a ghost cloak that can dominate defeated spirits, making them his own. In addition, Lin gains the ghost horse, which can travel tirelessly and bypass ghost territory barriers. The protagonist thinks that the general might as well be called a treasure chest. With the battle over, Ling suggests that her father start helping Lin, but Zhou finds it odd since she recently told him to stop working. Suddenly, the ghostly territory disappears, prompting the father to ask if they've won. However, you see the headless general approaching, leaving everyone in despair. But fortunately for them, the one riding the ghost horse is our hero. To reassure everyone, Yan announces that the headless general has been killed by the protagonist. Naturally, the co-leader's daughters are astonished because the ghost had taken down 20 people by himself. Zhao, on the other hand, is slightly annoyed that a mere 15-year-old boy now possesses all the ghost's benefits. In this case, he asks if the hero is selling the ghost and states he's willing to pay 50 million credits. However, the protagonist refuses, so Zhou keeps increasing the offer until it reaches 100 million. This makes Ling think her father is crazy for offering so much just to get the horse. Regardless, since the Zhao family has noble family, Yan believes it's not a lot of money for them. Lin, however, feels slightly irritated by this display of wealth and declares that some things cannot be bought with money. Yan understands the boy's point because right now the most valuable thing is a powerful ghost master, as only they can save humanity during an apocalypse. Thus, since Lin is already so strong at such a young age, it's clear the boy's future will be great. So great that it cannot be measured in money and will carry unimaginable weight. After that conversation, the leader asks if the hero needs a ride, but he says he'll return on the horse. Yan understands his decision as he's acquired such a cool means of transportation, but she asks for a ride next time. To avoid traveling alone, the hero summons his two spirits to celebrate. The boy thinks that this feeling of having them by his side isn't bad at all. But suddenly, Tong Tong encounters a malicious spirit, presenting the perfect opportunity to test the ghost course's abilities. With brutal force, the protagonist invades the territory of a B-rank spirit and destroys it. The hero then reflects that this ghost course and sword are incredibly useful for gaining experience. But even so, within a short period, they were able to return to High City. Before anything else, the protagonist knows that entering like this will attract a lot of attention. However, he doesn't know what to do with the horse, so the system informs him that the inventory space can be upgraded. By upgrading the inventory space to level 2, it now has 5 cubic meters. The system automatically forms a wardrobe room and a phantom stable. Additionally, it's stated that the host can feed the phantom horse with seaweed to restore its stamina. At that moment, Tong Tong taps the boy's shoulder to inform him that something is happening. Taking a look, the hero notices it's an evil spirit, but its energy is strange as it seems even weaker than that of a rank E. Furthermore, it's ignoring Lin, which makes him think it's the type that only attacks when it has a chance of winning. Then the protagonist notices a messenger bag that might hold a treasure. So Lin instructs Tong Tong to grab the bag, and as expected, the moment she does, the spirit's aura increases significantly. However, unexpectedly, the hero is transported back to the cave, possibly due to the bride's power. In this case, Lin thought that Xuanhua acted likely out of feeling threatened by the messenger ghost, which piqued his curiosity. Without further delay, the boy asks Tong Tong to check what's inside the bag, and from it, 2 phantom letters emerge. They were quite similar to a marriage contract, but the delicacy of the letters showed it was crafted by a woman. The system in turn informs that the bride can assist in reading it with the ability to decipher phantom words. So the two begin, but all the letter's author says is to be saved. Unexpectedly, the system notifies Lin that he can choose the unknown female ghost as his third spirit, and in doing so unlock the favorability mission. Naturally, the protagonist becomes very interested and learns he'll need to complete 3 missions to bind the contract. However, as a twist of fate, the first task is to write a reply letter and deliver it to the postman who stole it. In this case, the hero asks his ghosts if they can defeat the postman, but they're not certain. Regardless, the protagonist starts writing the reply letter first, and without much delay, the postman appears, running at high speed. The ghost aura is completely chaotic, so the hero plans only to put the letter in the bag and return it. Fortunately, at the moment this happens, the postman simply takes the bag and leaves happily. In High City's inner district, at the city lord's mansion, some people are shouting about needing to report something. It's about the headless general from the previous night in the second defense area, but Lia Ru, the third maiden of the city, had already heard about the boy long ago. Liu Yun Xiao, the city lord, does not agree with leaving such a genius to the Ghost Masters Association. At a bar in High City's center, someone shouts about something being very frustrating. Because of the headless general, they couldn't even leave the city to earn money, so the two complain about the association. In this case, the bartender mentions hacking the Ghost Masters Association's internal authority, and because of this, he asks the boy to guess who killed it. Not knowing, the employee informs them it was Lin Feng, and naturally, the two are very impressed, as it's about a boy only 15 years old. In response, an old man comments that occasionally a genius like that appears, suggesting they focus on having children, as they might excel at that instead. The two masters agree, thinking that since Lin is in puberty, the boy has probably never even touched a girl. Meanwhile, in Lin's room, our hero is sleeping next to Tong Tong and Xuan Hua. Breaking this peace, Yan shouts for the boy to wake up, and when he asks why, the leader explains that a beautiful and important government figure has come to speak with him. Later, in a meeting, the girl praised the hero's accomplishments, but Lin simply asked why she had come to see him. In this case, Liu Ru explains that although the boy is already affiliated with an association, she wants him to participate in Hei's governance. The hero warns that he'll likely disappoint her, but she asks him to let her finish speaking first. With that, she explains that the High Union was established by a powerful ghost master, and that with Lin's talent, he could receive the best resources. Therefore, the protagonist asks if what the girl is trying to say is that joining them would be better. She says yes, because the conditions the protagonist would have wouldn't be those of a mere vassal. Since the girl's father is already 86 years old, she will soon become the head of the city, but her abilities are insufficient. That's why she says she needs to find someone strong to be her husband, which leaves the hero startled. Originally, the girl's father had other suitors in mind, but he agreed to this because it involved a powerful master, and thus Lin could claim half of the city. In light of this, the hero understands the city lord's seductive plan, knowing that 99% of people would accept it without hesitation. However, he decides to ask why the big sister chose him, which makes her blush, embarrassed by being called that. To explain himself, the hero reminds her that he's only 15 years old and that this is a respectful way to address her. However, the girl doesn't think the age difference between them is significant, and extremely flustered, she decides to leave, which makes Lin wonder if he did something wrong. After the conversation, Yan asks what the protagonist did to make Liu turn so red, but when he explains, the leader unexpectedly becomes jealous. At the same time, in the limousine, the driver asks if her lady needs a towel, but she shouts that she doesn't, because all she can think about is how no one told her the hero's age. Thinking about this, the girl feels guilty for taking advantage of someone younger, but remains excited to see if he'll accept. In a conversation with Yan, the hero comments on how young the city lord's daughter is, and she explains that the lord only had children when he realized he might not have heirs. Liu Ru is his legitimate daughter, who will soon have to inherit the lord's position, as 86 years is considered a limit for ghost masters. In this case, the protagonist asks what will happen to the city lord's ghost spirit when he passes away. Yan explains that because it is so strong, it will likely roam the city causing trouble. Therefore, before he dies, he should go to the ghost prison. Naturally, the hero asks what this ghost prison is. It is then explained that the Union headquarters has a golden prison called the Wheel-Tooth Prison. There are many malicious spirits, and the spirits of strong ghost masters are imprisoned before they die. Before their death, they enter the prison, and their spirit is sealed until, many years later, when their partner's favorability diminishes, someone else can attempt to tame it. Yan, for her part, has been excited for a long time about the day she'll be able to try taming a ghost in the prison, and the one she wants most is number 55. Since she needs more credits, she says the hero must continue helping her while avoiding anyone trying to seduce him. Suddenly, the system announces that a ghost letter is about to arrive, requiring the recipient to be alone. Thus, our hero heads to an open field and waits, impressed by the speed of the response. A few seconds later, the postman appears running at high speed, but since Lin will be receiving the letter, he hopes not to be attacked. Fortunately, the postman stops and delivers the letter peacefully. However, he doesn't leave without requesting payment for his service. Zhuanhu then hands over a bit of her energy for the malicious spirit to absorb. With the postman's departure, Lin calls the girl to read the letter, first using the Ghost Resolution ability. Upon reading it, the letter mentions a monastery in the southeastern part of Liu City, providing a clue to follow the ghost's energy. At that moment, the hero recalls the monastery where he found Xuanhu's shoes, making him think the ghost might also be trapped there. As for the other words, the protagonist couldn't read them clearly, but he requests to be taken to the southeast of Liu City. With that, Lin uses the ghost horse and sets out to tame his third spirit. After a few minutes, the boy begins approaching the desert area, indicating that he'll reach Liu soon. However, he suddenly receives a message from Leader Yan on his communication device. Ghost hordes are the most dangerous unnatural disasters, and often, after a few years, they appear in the outer areas of a city. Cities often have several external defense lines, and even without walls, they contain aura detection devices. Once again, if the defense line fails, the hordes of ghosts will break through, and the entire city will face a chaotic crisis. Of course, at the Second Academy of Ghost Masters in Liu City, the teacher says there's nothing to worry about here. But a little girl raised her hand because her mother said this incoming horde was the largest in history, which caused some panic. Additionally, the girl asked why the teacher, who was a master, wasn't going to the front line, but he simply avoided answering. At the northern defense line of Liu City, someone asks why Lao he is still there. That's because they heard this time the Horde would be dangerous. But a girl responds that it will come from the west, meaning this place is still safe. However, suddenly, an A-rank evil spirit breaks the defense line, forcing all the masters into combat. One of them commands their ghost to check if the mass attack is really happening. Soon, they realize the gravity of the situation and that they won't be able to handle it. Desperation overtakes the ghost masters, but the girl shouts, asking if Lao he hears the sound of hooves. At this moment of crisis, our hero arrives mounted on the headless general's horse, breaking the territory. The spirit is defeated with just one strike, which leaves the girl from before in despair. But upon closer inspection, they notice it's a ghost master, not another evil monster. Getting straight to the point, the hero asks if they are ghost masters from Liu City, and one of them confirms and informs him about the Horde from the east. The same man also warns the hero to be careful, but he simply leaves without listening. At this moment, the ghost masters realize the boy is Lin Feng and are amazed at how much the protagonist has evolved in such a short time. On the western side of Liu City, at the first defense line, the hero thinks this place is truly perfect for farming. Despite that, a horde is indeed occurring, and if there are already so many at the first line, Lin can barely imagine the entire outer area. As Yan once said, the defense line is like a sieve that gets smaller and smaller. The third defense line has stronger masters, but they'll only handle high-level enemies. Therefore, Lin sees this as a good opportunity to eliminate them first. With this, the protagonist charges straight through the swarm, destroying every ghost he encounters. With one victory after another, even though B-rank spirits don't give much experience, the sheer number of them changes the situation. At the second defense line of the western area, a girl informs her brother Yuan Feng that the third team has been eliminated and they won't hold out much longer. Thus, Yuan tells Han Su to stay behind while he lures the A-rank evil spirit to the station. However, suddenly he sees a spot that's clearer of ghosts where Lin is located. Because of this, Yuan heads toward the region, but not before bumping into two other A-rank spirits. The two spirits corner him and collide their domains, causing a massive explosion. Extremely frightened, Han Su watches everything unfold. Luckily for her, the protagonist breaks the spirit's territory and saves Yuan, throwing him to the ground. As soon as he lands, Lin leaves immediately, and other warriors arrive to check on the group leader's condition. Yuan, however, only asks if anyone managed to see the Ghost Master's appearance, but everyone says no. Returning to the hero's perspective, he finds it strange that there are so many strong monsters in the second defense line. But on his device, he finds a hole in the defense, which leaves him no more time to think. With this, the protagonist continues defeating every ghost he encounters. Eventually, the system informs him that Xuanhua now has enough to evolve to S rank. In this case, the hero decides to upgrade her, which grants her the fog ability and significantly boosts many of her stats. Thus, our protagonist is ready to head to the outer area. At the third defense line, someone shouts, asking Yahello if the association's reinforcements have arrived yet. But while defeating a ghost, the S-rank master explains that even if no reinforcements come, they'll still need to defend the city. Suddenly, a report comes in about an S-class evil spirit approaching from the west, increasing Fi's stress even further. In another region, however, Lin walks through a strange bamboo forest and finds it odd that the ghost territory isn't breaking. But soon he encounters the owner of the domain, who is none other than an S-rank malicious spirit. Despite being a malicious spirit, the hero finds the panda quite cute, though it is still violent. In this situation, the boy orders Xuanhua to use the mist and Tong Tong to kill the monster using mutation mode. However, the cuts reveal that the monster is actually a stuffed toy, but since it is a puppet, Lin questions what the small orb in the middle is. Quickly, the hero realizes that this is the main body, which is evident given the ghost's energy is still active. However, the monster becomes even stronger and expands its territory in a surreal way. The domain grows so much that it reaches the protected zone and begins killing ghost masters there. In this case, one of the warriors asks Fi to handle the malicious spirit, while he manages the situation locally. Back at the confrontation, the monster makes an admirable expression, but Lin says it's useless because its weakness was exposed long ago. Thus, he orders Xuanhua to finish off the panda, and she complies. With that, the system announces victory, leaving Fei confused about what's happening. But soon he sees two ghost spirits and the silhouette of the hero, leading the old man to think he is the alliance specialist. Finally, the half hour of safe time ends, allowing everyone to catch their breath. At the first western base, someone reports the casualties and Fi thanks the protagonist for his help. That's because they would have suffered far greater losses without his support. Nevertheless, the old man asks why only the boy is there as the Union sent two teams. The hero explains that he is a special lone member and that the official team has yet to arrive. Naturally, the other masters are amazed that the boy isn't part of the main team, and Fei asks for the hero's name, to which he replies, Lin Feng. With that, the two warriors become excited and praise the protagonist as they had already heard a lot about the savior of the city. Fi also commends him for always returning to his hometown whenever it's in need. For that reason, he asks to befriend the boy, and half an hour later, the hordes return with full force. In fact, they come back even more aggressively this time, prompting Faye to check through binoculars. What's worse, the detection device indicates not one, but two S-rank spirits are present. In this case, the old man begins to panic, as he isn't fully healed and has few allies to fight with. Meanwhile, a ghost master arrives to inform them that the south is also in crisis and that 2 bases have already been destroyed so far. This makes the situation even more desperate, leading Faye to think they are truly doomed to lose. In light of this, he calls Lin over to send him away on his ghost horse. The old man insists that a genius like the boy cannot die even if the entire city is destroyed, and pleads with the hero to leave. After all, to Faye, as long as the protagonist survives, he can avenge them in the future. In response to this concern, however, the hero asks to analyze the situation first. After observing the 2 malicious spirits alongside the ghost hordes, all Lin can think is that this place is full of XP. In this case, the protagonist asks if the old man can handle an S-rank spirit on his own, to which Faye confidently responds that he can. Thus, the boy announces that the rest will be up to him. Then he jumps into the war, leaving the old man desperate, but Lin doesn't care because he's confident he will win. At the eastern defense front, the hordes begin attacking, but the ghost masters defend from the wall. Lin, on the other hand, says he will leave the white one to Faye, but all he needs to do is hold it off for a bit. Feeling underestimated, the old man declares that he will fight alongside the boy. Back at the wall, the shooters work at high speed to reload their ammunition. The second round of fire is launched, and on the front lines, Faye opens his ghost territory. This causes his domain to clash with the S-rank spirit's domain. However, the malicious spirit is too strong, so other ghost masters attempt to assist the elder. From atop the wall, a warrior warns that Lin is approaching the Black Reaper, but another finds it dangerous that he hasn't opened his domain. Lin in turn commands Tong Tong and Xuanhua to follow him so they can attack within the Phantom's territory. As expected, the Black Reaper has 8 A-rank spirits waiting for their leader's command to attack. The hero thinks this is good because he can easily eliminate all of them with his speed. Lin instructs Xuanhua to lure all the A-rank spirits into her domain while he distracts the S-rank spirit, which the girl does successfully. Naturally, those watching from the wall are astounded that the hero can open his domain within another and trap so many ghosts inside. However, since Lin plans to fight 2 against 8, they believe he's being overly arrogant. But as soon as they all fall into Xuanhua's territory, they can no longer use spells. So Tong Tong simply eliminates all of them at once, earning 12,000 experience points from the system. Because of this, the other ghost masters think the little girl is truly fierce. Meanwhile, our hero thanks both girls for their excellent work, but he notices the Black Reaper is moving faster. Unfortunately, it's too late, as an explosion occurs, leaving the 2 ghosts frightened. Luckily, our hero is wearing the headless general's armor, which reflected the attack. In response, the ghost attempts to use magic, but the protagonist doesn't give it a chance. With a precise strike from Xuanhua wielding a golden sword, the spirit is defeated. This is because her flash ability, combined with a powerful sword, can catch anyone off guard. In the old man's group, someone asks about the situation and Faye reports that it's dire on their side. He admits they won't be able to hold out for long, but Lin is already heading toward the next S-rank spirit. Even if he can't break the territory, creating weaknesses is already enough. The old man, however, finds the hero's audacity to approach absurd. This is because his territory was destroyed, and since the spirit is stronger than a normal S-rank, he believes they stand no chance of victory. However, while Faye is commenting, our hero is only paying attention to the system. Naturally, this irritates the old man, but Lin is merely waiting for Tong Tong to evolve to S-rank. As soon as the girl evolves, the White Reaper stops attacking, as if sensing her aura. At this moment, it's impossible not to notice the magnitude of Tong Tong's power. Wasting no time, the hero orders Xuanhua to destroy the Phantom territory. After the domain is dismantled, Lin reveals that both his ghosts have ascended to S-rank. Naturally, the old man cannot fathom how the hero evolved so quickly. But now there are no more excuses not to attack, so Tong Tong goes for the final blow. In response, the white ghost summons several cloth and paper puppets for defense. As they combine into a giant puppet, it manages to block Tong Tong's strike on its avatar and counterattack. In this case, the old man orders everyone to cooperate with the hero to defend the outer area. Since the puppet is trapped by Xuanhua's domain, the hero thinks it's a good idea to use the cloak. He releases several low-level ghosts to attack the monster, but it retaliates. However, this distraction is enough for Tong Tong to prepare a precise strike. The White Reaper begins to approach, but the girl cuts the puppet in half. Faced with this, the ghost engages in direct combat against the girl's avatar. But with a powerful strike, she slices the spirit in half, tearing it into pieces. Even so, the system shows no notification, and Faye notices on his device that the Reaper escaped. Currently, it's already 500 meters away, and the protagonist can see this with his enhanced vision. Despite being an easy target, the protagonist decides not to pursue it because defending the city is now more important. All that remains for the Ghost Masters is to be amazed at how talented this boy is. Thus, Fide, along with another, approaches to praise the hero for making an S-rank ghost flee. The old man says it's an honor and a blessing for humanity to have a genius like him around. However, humbly, the protagonist replies that compared to the elder who has protected the city for so many years, he has done nothing. Suddenly, someone reports on their device that something terrible has happened. It's said that the southern area's defense has fallen, the outer city has been invaded, and some coasts have reached the Golden City. So the hero thinks this attack might be coordinated because the coasts breach precisely at the weakest point. However, at the moment, the most important thing is that a horde is coming to completely destroy the city. In this situation, some masters panic because their wives and children are at home. But Faye knows they cannot abandon their posts because if they move to the center, the number of ghosts there will only increase. Thus, the protagonist states he will handle it, giving the warrior a bit of relief. Therefore, he asks Lin to protect his wife and children. But as the hero proceeds, he thinks that hordes are not natural, but rather caused by S-rank strategies. For this reason, he believes he might find answers in this city, but right after entering, everything seems quite normal. Suddenly, someone sends a message to Lin, asking to be saved from an evil spirit at the mall. The protagonist then rushes and, unfortunately, realizes the hordes have already moved toward the city's center. After some time, Lin manages to see a massive ghost territory in the area. The territory is covering the entire outer city, and it crosses the hero's mind that this could be a spirit stronger than S-rank. As soon as he crosses the territory, Lin realizes how cunning the ghost is because the domain doesn't differ much from the city, making it hard for people to notice they've entered it. And when he reaches the school's location, even the inner city is already falling. In the mall's storage room, the red-haired girl asks if Ping called for help, and the boy explains about Lin but says he might be outside. Regardless, this horde is unprecedented, making Ping think there's no way they can be saved. Meanwhile, another boy trapped there starts to panic. However, Lin is indeed looking for the boy, but the mall is enormous. Back at the storage room, the frightened boy asks why Yejin's father isn't coming since he's in A rank, but the girl cries and explains he's on the front lines. At that moment, someone knocks on the door, and the red-haired girl starts to hope it's Lin. Outside, the hero is indeed knocking on a storage gate. However, where the children were, the one who knocked down the gate revealed itself as an evil spirit. Meanwhile, where the protagonist was, he found a mother with a child, leaving him extremely surprised, especially because that woman was his own mother. 8 years ago, Lin returned home very excited to see his grandpa and Tong again. But unexpectedly, the old man was doing something very strange, which startled him. To ease the situation, the old man explained he was just cutting the girl's hair, and Tong trusted the old man's skills, though she said she'd want Lin to try next time. After being abandoned by his parents, Lin was integrated into life in the warehouse district of the outer city and became part of Grandpa Hu's family. Grandpa Hu does mechanical repairs along with collection and recycling, and he has a good reputation for helping retired people create mechanical limbs. Thus, even though he's not good at household tasks, he managed to take good care of the two. And although Tong is also an abandoned child, her personality is cheerful and happy, perhaps due to Grandpa's influence. Despite being poor, they all enjoy the warmth of family life every day, and the protagonist almost forgot his painful past. Until the day Mr. Jin knocked on their door, demanding an explanation about the sensors that should have been replaced last week. However, now the car was destroyed, and the man blamed Grandpa for it. Obviously, Hu denied it, stating his work was of high quality and that the sensor, most of the time, only prevents the car from moving. But upon being exposed, the Ghost Master only became angrier, so Grandpa offered to check the car. However, in response, Jin simply threw Hu to the ground, saying he no longer trusted him. Furthermore, Jin declared that a Ghost Master's word was final, and the other affirmed the old man would have to pay. At that moment, the children were returning with groceries and planning to surprise Grandpa. But when they arrived, they found Grandpa lying on the ground, injured. Faced with this, they asked why Hu was hurt, and Lin asked if it was those guys. Then the old man explained that those bastards used their position to intimidate honest people. Yet the old man smiled, saying it was okay because even he didn't know where he had kept his money. Later, the bullies admitted they had crashed the car while drunk, but they knew Hu had money since he did all of Liu's work. Thus, suddenly, they managed to see the old man passing by, and this is a good opportunity to break into his house and search for valuable items. Quickly, they began looting everything, and the two little ones were completely restrained. However, after searching, all they found were bags of fragments that weren't worth much. For this reason, one of the Ghost Masters suggested taking the girl because he knew of a factory in the south that might buy her for 1,000 coins. But obviously our hero wasn't going to let that happen, so he grabbed the man's arm and bit him. This caused the man to punch Lin away, making him pass out without a chance to fight back. Thus, little by little, our hero's eyes began to close until he saw the girl disappear. Later that night, Lin was being treated, but the boy felt very guilty for not being able to protect Tong. In any case, the old man said they would rescue her if the information was correct, so the hero confirmed the details about the southern factory. Then, sometime later, in that area of the southern city's factory, who sent Lin through the pipes with a flashlight to investigate. And so, our hero went until he reached a ventilation shaft where he could see Tong and a nurse below. Quickly, the men tied the girl to the bed, but Lin got anxious about it and dropped his knife from above the vent, which stuck into the bed beside her. With this, it became obvious to the adults that someone was up there, so one of the men ordered to alert the boss. The protagonist in turn knew he had to run away as fast as possible, but one of the men used a weapon to break the structure, causing Lin to fall to the ground amidst some boxes. And upon taking a closer look at the entire situation, the hero couldn't understand what the hell that place was. It was the secret fertility factory of Liu City. One of those present asked if Yi, the nurse, was okay, but another told he that they needed to catch the intruder immediately. In this case, he ordered them to check the face of this brave child. And, unexpectedly, when their gazes met, the protagonist realized that those were his parents. At this moment, outside, the old man managed to hear that something bad had happened. While facing this reality, the hero began to understand that his parents worked there. And Yi, in turn, asked why Lin was there, but the father was much harsher and punched him, saying he wasn't his relative. Then, to save the day, he appeared, breaking through the wall with a crossbow and saying he wouldn't let this continue. Thus, Lin informed them that Tong Tong was captured in this place, and he asked who this man was. Shouting, Hugh said he wanted his granddaughter back, but he wasn't willing to give her up, especially since she had been sold to them. Thus, a shootout began, and wisely, the old man ordered the hero to grab the girl and leave. Unexpectedly, Tong Tong started climbing to the second floor, and Lin followed her. However, the boy's biological father ordered his subordinates to follow them as well. Thus, the children reached the rooftop, but they no longer knew what to do. This was because now they had nowhere else to run, as they were cornered. Lin, in turn, tried to stay calm, saying he would come to save them. But, unfortunately, the old man was defeated and was just a trigger pulled away from meeting his end. With no choice, Hugh offered all the money he had in exchange for the freedom of his 2 grandchildren. But all he did was kick him, saying he didn't want money from poor people because if they kept making children, one day they'd produce one with a strong body. Thus, the man asked the children to come to him, saying he wouldn't harm them. Furthermore, he told them not to step back as it could be dangerous. But in this moment of distraction, Hugh seized the opportunity to charge and grab the man's face. However, the old man was kicked away and now truly defeated. Even so, he was very angry about getting hurt, so he opened fire on the old man. But, unfortunately, Tong Tong was heading toward her grandfather and didn't notice the bullet approaching. Thus, she was hit squarely and the two fell off the building, causing a huge commotion. Lin screamed and tried to help but was unable, and seeing them on the ground, the boy really couldn't believe it. He, in turn, only cared about the money he lost, so his subordinate asked if they should kill the boy. But, as in Yi still showed some kind of feeling, the father decided to let the boy die alone. On this day, Tong Tong died and Hugh became paraplegic, but even with everyone saying they should be dead, Lin was happy to still have his grandpa. The worst part was that the situation happened because of his true relatives, and it was on this day that the hero understood how human hearts could be. After some time, naturally, Hugh passed away, so the boy went to an orphanage, but he never sought to make friends with anyone. This was because he promised himself that he would become the strongest ghost master, even if that was the type of person he hated the most. Back in the present, Lin's mother screams as a movie plays in her mind. Desperate, and Yi begs this boy, whom she assumes is a ghost master, to help them. And it happens as expected because the mother doesn't recognize her son after 8 years. And Yi in turn explained that they were attacked and she injured her leg. Furthermore, she found a child and they hid together. In any case, the hero asks where her husband is, and after some thought, the woman explains that Hugh always runs away when things get tough. Once again, as expected, Lin realizes that Bastard is cold and doesn't care about family. Nevertheless, because they saved a child, the hero believes she might have talent and he doesn't want her to go through what he went through. At this moment, a message arrives saying reinforcements are coming and asking Lin to head to the refugee area, which he acknowledges. Thus, putting his resentments aside, he offers help to his mother and carries her along with the child. Upon meeting another ghost master, Lin asks the man to put the two in the vehicle while he goes to save others. However, before they leave, Yi says she has a request for the Lord. With great sadness, she informs him that her husband is on the 3rd floor of the mall and begs for a rescue because he might still be alive. Obviously, the hero asks why she still wants to save him despite his abandonment. Then, Yi responds and pleads because despite his faults, he is still a family member. A few minutes later, the hero finds and pings communication device, which makes him wonder if he might be too late. Faced with this, he orders his 2 ghosts to wait while he goes up to investigate. But suddenly, a noise is heard on the roof, which starts to crack and collapse. However, in that corner it's the helipad and many ghosts are surrounding the helicopter. Inside the vehicle is the boy's father, who despite shooting a lot cannot defend himself against a monster that starts invading his face. Coincidentally, the protagonist arrives at the most desperate moment for his father. Therefore, the man begs to be saved, claiming he has many contribution points and a lot of gold. However, the boy does nothing, which only makes his father more desperate, offering all kinds of trivial things. What he didn't expect was that with each offer, Lin only felt less willing to help. Then he tried to appeal emotionally, saying he had many children who are ghost masters helping the city. But his hands started to melt, and as he couldn't get help, he tried to kill the man who refused to assist him. However, obviously, none of the bullets hit the boy. And, ironically or not, he meets his end by falling off a building in the same way as Tong Tong. Lin, for his part, feels no remorse for his father's death and simply leaves while the ghosts destroy the Horde. At the eastern exit of the inner city, a school bus explodes and the one behind tries to swerve to avoid a collision. Fortunately, they managed to get through but by a hair's breadth. However, the fire was caused by a ghost, so a master used his Jianwu spirit to block the exit. Inside the school bus, the teacher tries to calm everyone, saying the seniors will be there soon. However, the residential area is already completely destroyed by the monsters. At this moment, many ghost masters run desperately along with the students who are trapped in the mall. But Yuma's strongest are losing the battles they face, which only leaves everyone even more desperate. At this moment, the boys find a school bus, and they believe that if they get inside, they can go to the inner city and survive. Inside the bus, a man shouts at the driver to leave, but he still wants to wait since it's the only vehicle heading east. Unluckily for everyone, a massive ghost appears, causing an earthquake and almost toppling the bus. Thus, for those inside, all hope is completely gone, and the driver believes he's going to die. However, from a portal, an enormous happy train emerges, leaving the hurried man from before utterly confused. This train was part of Tong Tong's domain, and now that it's there, she strikes the ghost's face with a powerful attack. Next, Xuanhu does the same, and our hero approaches to deliver the final blow with the golden sword, causing a massive explosion. With that, the students are left very confused, and the executive asks who this person is. Then one of them announces that this is the savior of the city and the hero they wish for. Obviously, they realize the boy is Lin Feng from the student group, but others think it's impossible because he must at least be an A-rank veteran coastmaster to do that. However, what happened wasn't a lie, and getting back on his course, the hero ordered everyone to follow him. Thus, some girls fell in love and a few boys were a bit confused by the power gap despite being in the same class. Inside the bus, the second-class teacher praises the protagonist, saying he is proud of him. On a communicator, the hero announces that he is taking care of the wounded and asks the other teams to follow his lead. Thus, the rescue mission continues with the hero in the lead and ghost masters escorting the school buses. Eventually, they manage to reach the entrance of the eastern city. There, a warrior asks everyone to form an orderly line and enter slowly, but Lin never imagined such a structure existed within the inner wall. At that moment, someone appears and thanks the protagonist for his help. Removing her hood, she reveals herself as Yan and asks if the boy missed her, which makes him happy. At the eastern shelter, the hero asks about the current situation. The leader then explains that the golden walls cannot yet block the strong spirits that fly or travel underground. It is said that if the Union had sent elite members, the situation would be under control, but the outer city and the southern city wall were damaged. In this case, the hero comments that it seems ghost masters are the key to stopping the Horde, and Yan agrees but laments the heavy losses they've already suffered. Regardless, the leader asks about the western side and how Faye is doing since Lin came from there. The hero explains that he helped the old man defeat 3 S-rank spirits, and that he should be fine now. However, after being surprised, Yan obviously doesn't believe it, thinking it must be some kind of joke. At that moment, a guard appears to report another S-rank malevolent spirit that has shown up. In this case, the leader calls the hero to support the city lord on the southern side. When asked about the city lord, the girl explains that although he doesn't appear much, he is a peak S-rank master fighting on the defensive line. At base note, 3 of the first southern defensive line in Liu City, chaos is widespread. Since it's the only base left, all the malevolent spirits are heading there. Because of this, the Lord orders the warriors not to leave their territory as they only need to stop B-rank spirits or higher. However, another bad report arrives informing them that yet another S-rank spirit has entered from the west. The city lord becomes furious because instead of dealing with the threat, the warriors paid by the government are running to report it to him. Later, our protagonist approaches with Yan riding on the back of his horse, and she comments that the ghost horse is very cool. Regardless, Lin asks her to hold on to him as they will increase their speed, which makes her blush. Suddenly, on the radar's right side, a ghost appears. It's the same one that fled earlier. Upon seeing this, Yan gets excited because Xiaobai has the same attribute as the White Reaper, so if he absorbs it, he can become stronger. Thus, knowing the spirit specializes in escaping, the hero announces he will set a trap while the leader lures it in. Quickly, Yan uses her paper ghost to catch the Reaper's attention, and the spirit falls into the trap. Under Xuanhua's suppression, the spirit can no longer use a clone or its domain to escape. In this way, Tong Tong appears and shatters the White Reaper into pieces, allowing Xiaobai to absorb its energy. However, since the protagonist defeated the S-rank spirit so easily, Yan begins to think that what was said earlier might actually be true. However, she still didn't understand how someone could become even stronger in such a short time. Lin, in turn, asked if the guild leader liked the gift, and while thanking him, she thought that very soon the hero wouldn't need his big sister's help anymore. Suddenly, at the southern front line, 4 S-rank entities appeared, so Yan informed them she would be there in 5 minutes. At the location, the warriors couldn't believe what they were seeing on the radar. Out of nowhere, a green energy began to manifest along with a very macabre mirror. With that, the lord of the city warned the others to be cautious because this was a unique ability of an S-rank spirit. However, this evil spirit's color on the radar changed to orange, which could indicate an even greater danger. Then all the city's glass started reflecting the creature's face as the warriors wondered what was happening. As expected, the one responsible for this horde revealed itself as an abyss-level evil spirit. Lin asked what the change from purple to orange meant, and the leader explained that the orange color signified an abyss-ranked spirit. This in turn was the rank 1 mirror ghost, and currently, the Ghostmaster team didn't have anyone capable of dealing with it. At that moment, however, the messenger informed the city lord that at least Yan and Lin Feng had arrived. And to the boys, the same messenger warned that the situation was critical and they should find the lord. When they met the man, he asked if the leader had any insight, and she said yes, but asked if he had a plan. The strangest thing was that the mirrors hadn't participated in the previous battle but had now evolved. This meant it had gained combat experience from other evil spirits. Apparently, the master of this order of ghosts was the mirror ghost, and it was the key to defeating the others. But as such a powerful evil spirit, Yan questioned why it hadn't opened a ghost territory. And that's when the Lord revealed that, unfortunately, the entire city was already covered by its territory. Obviously, Yan was shocked because that meant they were inside it too. And since retreat was impossible, the city lord advised that the best plan was to wait for reinforcements to arrive. As it just evolved, it was still considered the weakest in the Abyss ranking, so at the lord's level, he could delay it temporarily. However, for its rank, its territory was much larger than usual. Thus, the lord reasoned that to grow in one area, it must have worse stats in another. So all the two heroes needed to do was help identify the ghost's weakness. In this case, Lin said he would handle the east while the girl handled the west, and that the priority now was to defeat the S-ranked ones. Since there were only 3, the hero thought it wouldn't be too hard, but suddenly, 6 appeared. It became clear that this could be the mirror ghost's ability. But since it was just an illusion, the hero thought he only needed to find the true body. Together with Xiaohua, the guild leader declared it was time to test their powers. With a swarm of flowers, she attacked one of the ghosts, but the two reacted, counterattacking and showing that both were real. At this moment, the frontline warriors reported that the number of ghosts was increasing. To everyone's misfortune, the B and A-level ghosts were also being cloned. Thus, the guild leader informed everyone that the mirror ghosts weren't illusions and asked all ghost masters to gather. Then the hero realized that this meant the 3 clones would have the same abilities as the original S-ranked ones. Yan confirmed this, saying that although its ability was extraordinary, they still couldn't lose hope. Instead of slowly looking for a weakness, the hero suggested it would be easier to simply kill them all. This way, he opened his ghost territory and started defeating several monsters but received no rewards. However, the moment he destroyed one, the system awarded points, showing it was the original body. This meant the clone might lack certain conditions such as items, energy, or even stats. In this case, the protagonist asked Tong Tong to activate the ghost eye and prioritize killing the main body of the spirits first. She complied, and upon destroying an S-ranked ghost, the clone's body also vanished. In Xiaohu's ghost territory, a battle is underway, but Xiao Bai appears and destroys both the original body and the clone of a monster. Seeing this, one of the warriors shouts to the lord that Lin Feng and the others are incredible, as they have already destroyed 6 level 6 spirits. However, upon turning around, he notices that the lord is not well, as he can no longer hold the domain for much longer. In this case, the assistant uses the device to inform Lin and Yan to return and help. When they arrive at the city under the lord's domain, the place looks completely different from the mirror world. Moreover, even the lord's spirits are being cloned to fight against each other. Unexpectedly, in front of our hero, clones of Xuanhua and Tong Tong also appear. The situation with the clones obviously leaves the protagonist very surprised. From atop a house, a city lord explains that this ghost mirror can clone any spirit, including its special abilities. It seems the ghost spirit won't attack directly, but will use this method to deal with enemies. In this case, the hero orders his 2 spirits not to use special abilities and to attack directly instead. The ghost horse's territory-breaking ability, however, is now useless and might even be disadvantageous, so Lin stores it in the inventory. He also advises the leader not to enter the territory first, as there's a trap there, which he will explain later. Thus, being the originals, the girls easily destroy their clones, but unexpectedly, doing so also grants experience. However, the hero starts to believe that the clone spirit's combat ability isn't very strong. In this case, the city lord warns not to underestimate the enemy, as the first wave is merely testing their power. Soon, the clones appear again at incredible speed, and even though they lose, they grow stronger. The protagonist notices that this time the ability is closer to reality, though the ghost weapons cannot be perfectly formed. As a result, the clones are destroyed once again, but the fact that it grants XP again makes Lin think the spirit is expending energy for this. From the city lord's perspective, his ghost takes a few more hits and now his territory is on the verge of being destroyed. In this case, the hero asks Xuanhua to open a similarly sized territory. However, since the girl's territory is also covered by the ghost mirror, this means it can clone spirits again. Regardless, the protagonist asks Tong Tong to use her mutant form and Suan Hua her fire so they can see the extent of the cloning ability. With just one strike, Tong Tong destroys 2 clones and Suan Hua eliminates another 2 imitations. The hero realizes that the cloning time is becoming longer, which means using this ability is exhausting the ghost. Still, he believes the Abyss rank spirit is nearby, controlling everything, but the Lord warns that the clones have appeared once more. As expected, ghost weapons cannot be cloned. However, in this 4th wave of cloning, twice the number of ghosts appear, prompting Lin to think the battle must end quickly. In this case, the hero orders his spirits to use everything they have to eliminate the fakes. Seeing this, the city lord is confused by how Lin's contracted spirits possess so many forms. Without delay, Suan Hua handles 8 clones at once while Tong Tong's avatar destroys everything in her path. As if dealing with her own clones wasn't enough, Suan Hua also attacks the city lord's clones and destroys them. This frightens the man as the boy was even able to destroy his clones. At the same time, Lin orders Tong Tong to use her ghost eye to locate the mirror's main body. After scanning her surroundings, she finds a green point in the mansion, prompting her to fly there and break down the gate. However, in response to this attempted attack, the ghost merely flies away and hides elsewhere given the vastness of its territory. In this case, Lin orders Suan Hua to use her dual territory, which she does. Raking part of the ghost mirror's domain, the ghost is forced out of hiding. Previously, the clone's protection gave it time to accumulate ghost territory, but now that all the clones are dead, it cannot escape. Thus, Suan Hua appears behind the spirit and cuts it in half with her golden sword. Thus, the situation was resolved and the floating mirror cracked and fell from the sky. Lin, on the other hand, was very satisfied because on this trip alone, he managed to gain 20,000 XP points. At this moment, the guild leader appeared and asked if the mirror monster had already been defeated. The city lord laughed heartily and announced that thanks to Lin Feng, they had emerged victorious. It was now even possible to see the ghost hordes retreating, and so the crisis in Leaf City was finally resolved. Later, the population cheered when our hero appeared, and they were overjoyed that Lin had saved the city alongside the lord. Because of this, everyone organized a celebration, tossing our hero into the air repeatedly. However, among the crowd was the boy's mother, who began to recognize the name of the person being glorified. As everyone celebrated, the little child within Yi asked if she knew this big brother, but she had the good sense to realize she could no longer belong to Lin's family. Thus, she simply told the boy to strive to become like him in the future, and the boy agreed. A city lord in turn announced that even though the crisis had been resolved, there was still significant damage, so Yan suggested assigning missions for reconstruction. Now, regarding the mirror ghost, Lin tried to explain the situation, but the lord stated that if not for him, he would have died. Therefore, besides deserving the item, the lord invited the boy to a celebration later. Lin tried to decline, saying it wasn't necessary, but Yan spoke on his behalf, assuring them they would attend. Later, the dead were covered and reconstruction efforts began. However, amidst all the destruction, the protagonist stood alone, and that's where Yan found him. The leader sensed that the boy seemed different, appearing worried, but the protagonist claimed it was nothing and that he was just tired. Lin confided that since he was young, he had wanted to rise to the top of the Ghost Masters to make those who looked down on him regret it, but today many didn't even remember him. Because of this, he believed that in the end he was truly alone. However, Yan asked about the boy's loved ones and whether they weren't by his side. By loved ones, she referred to the ghost spirits that had accompanied him for 15 years. Even if they didn't speak, they protected their contractors, and it was said they shouldn't just be tools for battle. They were meant to form bonds and act as friends, taking care of one another. So Yan told the hero never to say he was alone when he had 2 spirits and of course, by his side. Additionally, the leader expressed hope that in the future, the protagonist would protect her and take her across the world. Although he didn't fully understand, the hero thanked her for her words and said he now felt more motivated. Later, the reinforcement team from High City reported to the president that they were approaching the first line of defense. But what Kim Jong, the president of the Union, found strange was that they hadn't encountered any ghosts along the way. In this case, Yang Bai, an S-class member, mentioned that, according to a forum post, the ghost horde had retreated. Obviously, Cao Zhang found this even stranger since the city had nearly been destroyed not long ago, so he asked if someone incredibly powerful had appeared. In response, one of the masters reported that the person responsible for defeating the Abyss-level spirit was Lin Feng. However, as the leader had never heard of him, Yang Bai explained that he was a genius from the city, but was still only ranked A. In this case, they decided to keep moving forward, as they would learn more upon arrival. In Li Ru's private mansion in High City, the young lady spent her time watering some shrubs. Suddenly, a servant arrived, announcing that something major had happened, prompting the young lady to ask what it was. Unexpectedly, the news was about Lin Feng and his recent achievement in driving back the Horde in Leaf City. For Liaru, this was obviously shocking, and the servant commented that Lin was truly worthy of being her partner. However, the fact that the hero was such a genius made the young lady think that if she didn't secure him now, she never would. In this case, The servant reminded her that she wasn't just beautiful but also the future lady of the city, which could be very appealing. Even so, Liu remained thoughtful and embarrassed by the fact that the boy was only 15 years old. Changing the subject, the servant mentioned that other families in the city were competing for Lin, which made the jealous young lady order all of them to be monitored. Later, at the mansion of the Lord of Liu City, the hero enters alongside the leader, and Lin is surprised by the luxury of the place. Quickly, they encounter Fi, who, full of excitement, says it's great to see the boy again. To make up for lost time, the two hug, and shortly after, the old man introduces the two people standing behind him, Cao Zhang and Yang Bai. Cao Zhang, in a somewhat rude tone, remarks that the boy made them come for nothing, which makes Lin a bit uncomfortable. Because of this, Yan asks the president to stop joking, and he laughs, commenting that it's truly better to have no work because it means the world is at peace. Yang Bai, on the other hand, praises the hero and says he hopes they can work together in the future. However, he also mentions that the rumor about Liu has already spread, and it's recommended to avoid leaving the city for the time being. Lin understands that the other competitors are seeing him as an obstacle, which will lead to trouble. In this case, the hero feels a bit stressed about being dragged into this competition against his will. At the dinner table, the city lord announces that tonight's party theme is Lin Feng, who was responsible for restoring peace. Thus, to thank the boy for his contribution, the lord personally grants him 1 billion credit points. Additionally, he offers a larger mansion and the opportunity to choose 3 ghost equipment items from the ghost storage. As if that weren't enough, Lin is also given the title of Guardian of Liu City, and the celebration begins. At the end of the party, everyone leaves in high spirits, and Yan carries the hero as it was his first time drinking alcohol. However, upon arriving at the leader's house, the girl becomes much worse from the alcohol, while Lin manages to regain some normalcy. In this case, he places Yan in her bed, but unexpectedly, she pulls his arm and kisses him. This was meant as a reward for the hero, and seeing him blush, the leader asks if the boy didn't like it. Wasting no time, Lin takes the initiative and kisses her back. That wild night continues with many advances from our charming hero. By the next morning, Lin wakes up with quite a hangover. After getting dressed and heading to the kitchen, the hero asks if Xuan prepared breakfast, but since Yan woke up early, she made it herself. She asks the protagonist to eat, and he thanks her. However, as soon as he takes the first bite, reality sets in. Yan, meanwhile, asks how it tastes, and to avoid any early morning conflicts, the boy says it's delicious. Changing the subject, Lin tries to bring up a certain topic, but the leader turns her face away and says goodbye, mentioning she has a mission in the west. It seemed like Yan was upset, but in truth, she was just too embarrassed to talk to Lin after the previous day. All the hero wanted to ask was if there was any water to drink. With the end of the Ghost Horde, Lin can now finally resume his search for his third spirit. At the city's exit, the hero asks Xuanhua if she can sense the direction of the ghost energy, but the girl says she cannot. In this case, Lin reasons that the card's energy might be dispersing, so he wonders what to do. Since the daughters of Leader Zhou are skilled trackers, he decides to head to Hyde to ask for help. At the Ghostmasters Union in High City, Lin announces that he is there to make a request, and Zhu asks what the boy needs. Because of their previous experiences together, the leader says he'll do whatever he can to assist. Lin explains that he came to meet the man's daughters because he needs their help to find a ghost territory. Naturally, the two girls become quite embarrassed. Without wasting time, the hero hands an envelope to Yu to sense the energy. Using her abilities, she manages to locate it, though the direction is somewhat unclear. In this case, the hero asks if he can borrow Yu for a few days, which is clearly not something Zhu is expecting. Lin clarifies that what he means is he needs her just to track a ghost and ensures her safety. For Zhao, there's no issue regarding security, but handing his daughter over to a boy is still difficult for a father. However, he decides to respect his daughter's decision, and unexpectedly, Yu accepts without hesitation. Her excuse was that her father taught her to repay others when they help you. However, Ling also volunteered to join as she was very skilled in tracking. This was unbelievable for Zhu to see his daughters offering themselves in such a way, but in any case, he accepted their willingness. In this case, the protagonist left, informing them he would pick up the two the next morning. But as the boy was leaving, he bumped into a hooded figure, who turned out to be none other than Liu Ru. Seeing this, the girl became embarrassed and mentioned that her father was looking for him. Then Lin asked if she meant the city lord wanted to see him. Liu Ru confirmed the invitation to visit the city lord's mansion for a personal discussion. The hero accepted, believing he could learn something about the mysterious temple from the city lord. However, during the trip, Liu Ru stayed very close to him, and Lin thought it might be problematic to meet her father in such a manner. Without delay, the two arrived at the mansion in a limousine, and the protagonist helped the girl out of the car. At that moment, the city lord appeared with 2 butlers, delighted to finally meet Lin Feng. Greeting the hero, he remarked that Lin's appearance matched the reputation of having so many girls admire him. Regardless, the old man invited Lin to see what he had to show. The hero thought the city lord seemed strong and far from being someone who would die in 5 years. Thus, they all walked to a golden room, where the city leader placed his hand on a device causing a door to open. Liu Ru, on the other hand, asked where they were, noting she had never been there before. Her father said she would find out later. Suddenly, Lin felt something descending, leading him to think they were in an elevator. 5 minutes later, the golden square stopped descending, indicating they were at least hundreds of meters underground. Without further delay, they arrived at a place called the Golden Chamber of High City. This chamber was a facility only the City Lord could use, inhabited by some special spirits. Lin asked if it was something similar to the Golden Prison of the Ghost Master Union. The Lord responded that Lin was knowledgeable, but more precisely, the prison was modeled after this chamber, as his father had built it 80 years ago. At that time, the old man's father became the city leader and personally experienced the ghost descent incident. In just 1 year, evil spirits had occupied the entire world, cutting off all communication and reducing Hei's population by 99%. Thanks to this shelter, the remaining people survived, and after years of hiding and training, they nurtured the first generation of ghost masters with physical bodies. This development made High City one of the few cities still standing after the incident. Back then, ghost masters forcibly subdued the evil spirits, but they didn't live long, and after their deaths, the ghosts ran rampant. In this context, the city lord's father created the chamber for imprisonment. When the current lord was about to be born, his father sealed himself inside. The city lord inherited his father's will, continuing to expand the defense and discovering methods to create regular ghost spirits. In this case, the Ghostmaster Union established the Golden Prison by copying the design of this chamber. What the old man planned to show now was the spirit they had recently captured. Liu Yun explained that this spirit had no sight but could sense space and kill with sound waves, as well as mimic anyone's voice. It was said that the ghost in Room Z was highly special and anyone other than its owner would die upon seeing it. Moreover, no one had seen the true form of the monster until now. Thus, the hero asked how they managed to capture a ghost that killed with a single glance. Liu Yun explained that due to its extreme danger, they initially intended to kill it, but after creating the golden box capable of absorbing a ghost's spirit, they unanimously agreed to seal it inside. As could be seen, many powerful spirits were locked there, and if war ever broke out, they would be the key to protecting the city. At this, Liu Ru asked what her father meant by war breaking out. The old man quickly explained that when peace prevails, humans begin fighting among themselves, just as they did 100 years ago before the incident when nations used nuclear weapons. So for Liu Yun, humans are a race that causes problems and eventually leads themselves to extinction. In response, Lin agrees, as human life is a cycle trying to survive while seeking death. Changing the subject, the old man says he has been observing the hero for a long time. He mentions that this year he has seen many brilliant ghost masters, but most of them had only a fleeting moment of glory before falling. Some even offered their life force, causing the death of an entire city along with them in an attempt to tame a high-ranking spirit. However, even though the boy is young, the old man sees that he is the most outstanding so far. In this case, he decides to ask Lin about his thoughts on Liu Ru's proposal, which makes her spit out her drink. Lin, on the other hand, says he's still not certain about the suggestion. Thus, the Lord understands that the boy doesn't want to marry, but mentions that in the past few days, he has considered changing the plan. He says that if the hero becomes a G-rank master and agrees to marry the girl, he will grant him all the ghosts in the region. In this way, the old man will help Lin reach the rank of god, and when the time comes, Lin will become the lord of the city. Obviously, Liu Ru doesn't understand what her father is saying. The old man explains that even though she's part of the family, she is only an A-rank master. For years, he has been building an army, but he knows how many forces are targeting the city. The Union wants to directly control Hei's power, and every family is also after the position. It is said that after Liu Yun's death, if there isn't a strong ghost master to lead, all the factions will fight for the position, causing a war. This makes the girl realize she has been naive. For the hero, the logic is sound, but since he has the system, he doesn't need help from others, so he suggests that the young lady become that powerful warrior instead. Obviously, the two don't take it too seriously, as Lin might be forgetting that leveling up isn't something that can be achieved in just a year or two. However, the girl's father doesn't lose hope and encourages her to grow stronger so that perhaps in the future, she can become a leader. After that conversation, the old man says he at least wants Lin to become friends with his daughter, and Lin agrees to consider it. Before leaving, the hero says he has a question and asks if Liu Yun has ever heard of the Solitary Temple. The old man begins to ponder because the name sounds somewhat familiar. Suddenly, he remembers that 50 years ago, this place was a nunnery that was destroyed by ghosts. During his time, the temple was a historical site for nuns, and after the appearance of ghosts, it also produced many powerful masters. However, they only accepted women and didn't interact with the outside world, making them appear mysterious. 50 years ago, the Lord traveled to the northern side and felt an intense ghost energy. Later, he discovered that a battle had taken place at the temple, and it said that a powerful malevolent spirit went berserk and destroyed the place. Hearing this, the hero realizes the temple really existed, so he asks what happened afterward and if anyone still goes there. It is explained that the spirit might still be there since a place where hundreds of people died is one no one dares to step into. The next day, Zhao meets the protagonist and informs him that he will leave his two daughters in his care. The hero assures him not to worry and asks the girls to hop on the horse. They do so with great excitement and smiles on their faces, leaving Joe heartbroken. Without wasting time, they leave, and along the way, the hero asks if either of them can sense a direction. In response, Yu says she feels it toward the northwest, and the hero acknowledges it. Meanwhile, Lin thinks about the temple and, considering his power level, believes he should get a bit stronger before trying his luck. In this case, he remembers that when Tong Tong leveled up, he received 2 lottery chances from the system. Using them, Lin gains the ability to transfer critical damage, which is almost equivalent to an extra life. Additionally, he gains the ability to connect minds like telepathy, which also provides mental resistance. In another region, the mailman ran happily but noticed that his recipient was at the solitary temple. Because of this, he felt a little scared, but entered the territory anyway. Upon arriving, however, the mailman saw a parasol flying and delivering a letter to the ghostly worker. Smiling, the mailman left. Meanwhile, the parasol spun, creating a whirlwind in the domain. Additionally, other parasols began to appear and fly, opening and covering the temple. But suddenly, they were burned by a malevolent purple energy that destroyed them all. In a canyon on the western side of High City, someone asked their Uncle Lai if the ambush plan was correct. The man responded that Lin had headed west along this route, so he should pass through there. Meanwhile, another man with a sniper rifle boasted that his shooting skills were the best in the entire city. In parallel, our hero walked through the canyon and, considering the others, asked if they wanted to rest, to which Ling replied yes. In this case, Lin informed them that after crossing this mountain, they would find a place to camp. At that moment, one of the ambushers spotted the hero with binoculars and relayed the information. Upon hearing this, the sniper confidently declared that he would handle it and that the protagonist would be dead with just 1 shot. Without any mercy, he aimed for Lin's head and fired, sending the bullet at high speed. However, just before it reached him, Lin turned slightly, as if sensing something. Unexpectedly, the attack hit, but the critical damage transfer ability was activated. This triggered the hero's spirits, and the 2 girls asked what had happened, but Lin reassured them he was fine. At this moment, the hero realized he had been shot, but fortunately, Tong Tong and Suan Hoa had absorbed the damage instead of him. From the bushes, the assassin couldn't believe it, convinced he had fired correctly. But now Lin could see the man and immediately thought that whoever had hired him must be someone significant for such a well-executed job. In any case, Lin decided to run to a spacious area first to gain a territorial advantage. With that, Lin asked Suan Hoa to open her domain, which she promptly did. Back with the assassins, one of them grew angry at the hero's audacity in revealing his domain, while another decided to teach him a lesson. Inside the domain, Ling asked what they would do next, and Lin reasoned that news of him being an S rank had probably already spread. And since these people were still following him, it was clear they had confidence in their strength. This was true, as their leader was Li Kang, a G-rank master. This classification, known as Earth Demon, made Lin aware that he could lose in a direct fight. Because of this, before summoning his spirits, the protagonist devised a plan to lure them into Suan Hua's domain. Back with the assassins, Li Kang was visibly irritated by the hero's arrogance, while another suggested they summon their spirits immediately. However, the uncle warned it wasn't the right time, as doing so would give the enemy time to prepare. After entering, Lei Kang asked why the protagonist hadn't come out yet, mocking if this was how he treated his guests. Without much delay, Lin appeared riding a ghost horse and welcomed them to his domain. Ling, recognizing the man, warned the hero that Lai Kang was an earth demon master with 3 very powerful spirits. Lei Kang, for his part, didn't hesitate to praise the boy's accomplishments but remarked that, unfortunately, Lin had blocked the path of someone important. Regardless, Lin simply laughed and asked if the man truly thought he could defeat him. Lei Kang confidently affirmed and advised Lin to remember this lesson in his next life, as sometimes running was the best option. At this absurd statement, Ling asked why Lai was attacking Lin and if there had been some misunderstanding. However, there was no misunderstanding. The only reason he hadn't killed the girls yet was due to his good relationship with Zhu. Nevertheless, since they had decided to follow the hero, the Ghost Masters declared they would kill everyone and summon their spirits. Unexpectedly, the spirit containers didn't react, and seeing the worried expressions on their faces, Lin mocked them. Without giving them a chance to respond, Suan Hoa appeared behind the men and finished them off, leaving the sisters in shock. Lin, however, explained that if he hadn't killed them, it would have been him who died. With the situation resolved, the 3 mount the horse again to head to a safer location. However, there was still one person alive who hadn't joined the fight and was shocked by Li's death. Since Lin Feng might also be an Earth Demon level master, he decided to report this to the young master. Later, in a deserted city as it gets late, Lin announces that they'll rest soon. After Tong Tong eliminates a malevolent spirit inside a tree hollow, it becomes the perfect spot to camp. Later, Lin prepares a barbecue, and since the girls haven't rested for a day, he offers them some as well. However, Ling is curious about how the protagonist manages to carry so much food, especially since the bread is still warm. The boy explains about his storage space and how much he can carry and store, which amazes the girl. By the way, Ling mentions that it's been a while since her younger sister went to the bathroom, and to ensure everything is fine, Lin decides to check. The girl's remark proves to be miraculous because, as the hero starts looking, he hears a scream. When he finds Yu, she's about to be attacked by a giant malevolent snake. Quickly, the protagonist appears and destroys the snake with a powerful punch, then hugs the girl, assuring her that everything is fine now. Later that night, Lin takes the first watch to prevent anything like that from happening again. He tells the girls to sleep quickly since tomorrow will be a long journey. However, feeling embarrassed, Yu admits she's scared and asks Lin to sleep beside her. Naturally, the boy feels shy but doesn't see a problem with helping. Yu thanks him but also feels a little guilty for making Lin uncomfortable. With that, morning arrives and it's clear from the protagonist's face that he didn't sleep a single moment. Later, the group is already 500 kilometers away from High City, and with just a few more kilometers in this direction, they'll reach their destination. Suddenly, the protagonist notices something that catches his attention. The system informs him that the location of the unidentified female ghost has been found, and the mission tied to the letter advances to level 2. However, the companion favorability reward should be 8, and 5 is far from enough. While the hero helps Yu dismount, Ling asks if this is the solitary temple. Lin hears a sound that feels familiar yet very strange, and Yu warns that a ghost is approaching. Fortunately, there's nothing to worry about since it's just a male ghost. All the spirit does is collect its reward as usual and deliver a letter for Xuanhua to read. The letter mentions helping the ghost umbrella, but no one understands the meaning of the request. Nonetheless, a favorability mission appears, leading Lin to suspect the umbrella might be the third spirit. Before long, the hero spots the umbrella floating in the sky. He announces they need to help it escape, but Ling warns that both sides are stronger than S rank. In this case, the hero thinks that although Xuanhua hasn't been upgraded to Abyss class yet, she can still use her abilities. He instructs the girl to approach the umbrella, use a flash to escape, and return with her concealment ability. That's exactly what Xuanhua does, successfully completing the mission and earning Lin 10 favorability points. Suddenly, the temple's structure begins to shift, and before they can process what's happening, a purple mist envelops the three. They find themselves at the entrance of the solitary temple. However, since it can move, Lin believes it's not the real temple, but rather a domain. Still, the agonizing sound is the same as before, as is the control of the spirits. Now the hero uses his mind connection ability, and by activating it, both Xuanhua and Tong Tong regain their consciousness. Thus, the third mission activates, entering the temple and finding the third companion, revealing that the umbrella is not the ghost. In this case, the hero calls the girls to enter, but before doing so, they observe the mysterious place. There, they encounter a ghostly nun striking a piece of wood with a cat-faced spirit from before standing behind her. Because of this, Yu admits she's scared, but the hero grabs both their hands and leads them inside. Unexpectedly, the surroundings of the temple completely change, transforming into a pleasant place. At that moment, two nuns appeared and asked about the identity of the intruders. Lin tried to explain, but since he was a boy, one of them ordered Yu Rong to call the convent master. Using a signal flare, many people arrived, assuming it was a ghost attack. However, when they arrived, they realized it was a man, and some began judging the boy's behavior for holding the hands of two girls. Nevertheless, a nun informed them that the convent master was already on her way. Lin was surprised when a woman named Xingqiu appeared before him, revealing herself as the master of the solitary temple. The convent master quickly asked if the hero happened to be a ghost master. He replied affirmatively while thinking she looked different from how she had appeared earlier. Curious about the others, King Shu inquired further, but Lin had yet to come up with a perfect excuse. Ling stepped in, saying they were cousins and that the boy had saved them while they were running. However, despite their slight resemblance, the convent girls believed the hero was actually a pervert. In any case, King Chu stated that men were not allowed in this solitary temple and ordered them to leave. But given how difficult it had been to get there, Lin appealed emotionally, mentioning the many ghosts outside and that they were far from home. He joined in claiming to have heard that the temple accepted people with nowhere else to go. In response, a monk prayed for the children, but others doubted that the master, given her personality, would make an exception. Unexpectedly, King Shu asked Sin Lion to arrange 2 rooms for them. This caused great surprise as the temple had never accepted boys in all its years. Thus, all the hero could do was express his gratitude, and Sin Lion took the lead, asking them to follow her. As they entered, the group passed by a ghost hitting a wooden fish drum. Sin warned the 3 not to get lost as the temple could accommodate more than 300 people. Finally, the group reached their assigned quarters in the Guyu courtyard, where Sin provided all the necessary information about meals and dormitories. Grateful, the 3 thanked her, and Sin told them they could rest now. At this moment, the hero realized his communication device wasn't working. It became clear that the entire group was completely isolated from the outside world. Ling found the situation strange, remarking that the temple had been destroyed 50 years ago. Yu suggested they might have traveled back in time. To clarify, the hero explained Xuanhua's test and mentioned that this was merely a memory of the ghost territory. Yu then asked if this place could be ghost territory of the convent master. However, if she had chosen this memory, the problem was likely tied to the destruction of the solitary temple. With that, Lin stood up and told the 2 girls to interact with the locals and gather information while he investigated his hunch. From the girls' perspective, the temple housed many women who seemed to have abandoned technology in favor of safety. Among the women, two discussed the Ghost Master of Ping City, describing him as very cruel, concluding that no man could be good. Another commented that a new union had recently been established to manage all Ghost Masters. At that moment, Yu and her sister joined a girl to help her with tasks, and she thanked them. Yu complimented the girl's beauty and asked where she was from. The woman revealed she was from Ping but had to leave because of the Ghost Masters. Ling argued that Ghost Masters fought against evil spirits and were, logically, good people. The woman disagreed, saying that as Ghost Masters, they would never understand what ordinary people endured. Despite fighting ghosts and saving cities, Ghost Masters dominated everything, imposing their will on others by force. Later, the protagonist walked along the rooftops while two women commented on him, one of them highly praising his looks. Lin, however, was more concerned with the details as the temple's scenery had changed since their arrival. Because of this, he left the temple and kept walking until he reached the ghost territory's wall, but despite seeing it, the hero couldn't leave. Reuniting with the group, all the gathered information was shared and the girls confirmed the barrier's presence. Now it was clear they couldn't leave as they pleased, but Yu didn't mind leaving her father alone for a few more days. At this moment, a nun appears to call the three for dinner. Upon arriving, Ling praised the appearance of the meal, commenting that she was starving. However, before eating, the hero stops her. That's because these are ghost foods, and in this situation, Lin thinks it's better to secretly store the food in the storage ring. As expected, since it's virtual food, everything disappears once stored. Suddenly, the monastery master arrives and Lin asks the girls to wait while he talks to her. Very politely, the protagonist thanks her again for the hospitality, but as the master eats, the hero can't help but think about how beautiful she is, even without hair. King Chu, in turn, asks if the boy has any questions, and Lin explains that the ghost pursuing them is a level 1 abyss malevolent spirit. Naturally, the girl is surprised, but since the protagonist survived, she comments that he must be at least S rank. The hero doesn't deny it, but also states that he might need to leave soon. King Shu, however, tells the boy not to worry as she will take care of it and invites Lin to visit her at the Mindful Hall the next morning. Faced with such a calm reaction to an abyss-level ghost, the hero grows curious about how the temple was destroyed. The next day, Lin goes to the Mindful Hall for his meeting and finds the nun in the same position as the ghost. Wasting no time, the protagonist greets her, and she asks him to sit. To satisfy his curiosity, Lin points out that the Buddha statue is on the other side and asks why she is striking the wooden fish while looking at the wall. Unexpectedly, the nun replies that in this era of burning souls, it's better to rely on oneself and cultivate the mind rather than seeking God. Regardless, Lin asks why the monastery master wanted to meet him. However, she doesn't say a word, and even after an hour, she remains silent. It gets to the point where Lin questions if sitting there is part of the mission. After 2 hours, King Chu praises the boy's patience, but the hero says he simply can't interrupt someone so focused. In this case, the monk tells him he can leave and return at the same time the next day. Even though he doesn't know what the nun is planning, Lin remains determined to find out. The next day, Yu asks her sister if she has seen the hero, and immediately, she tells her about his visit to the Mindful Hall. At the hall, everything happens the same way, with the only difference being that King Shu spends a bit more time striking the wood. Again, she turns to him and tells him to continue coming at the same time. On the third day, the sound of the wooden fish becomes slightly different from usual, but it definitely helps with focus and makes time pass faster. Lin can't help but think the monk is testing him, but since she doesn't pursue him, the hero decides to keep observing what she's planning. 7 days later, the hero announces his return. While setting up a lantern, Yu asks what he's doing since sisterkin is expected to give birth tomorrow. The boy, for his part, finds everything quite beautiful, and Yu explains that Xin Lian and Xin Yuan taught her. As evening falls, the girls say goodbye to the nuns to rest. Lin finds this type of friendship a bit strange, but Ling explains that after 10 days at the temple, they've learned a lot about the people and the place. In this case, the hero asks her to share what she knows. First, the people there believe they are living in the temple from 50 years ago in northeastern Hai, the third southern defense line in Pin. There are a total of 30 nuns, 10 of whom are ghost masters responsible for protecting everyone. Both Xin Lian and Xin Yuan are S rank, each controlling 2 malevolent spirits. Naturally, Lin is shocked, but Ling explains that in the temple, all the masters control malevolent spirits, and somehow, none lose control. At this time, ghost masters already knew how to nurture spirits, but it was very common for contractors of malevolent spirits to die young. So far, no one has been devoured by their own ghost, which might be related to their cultivation, as is the case with the master. For Lin, striking the wooden fish might be a type of cultivation method, and participating in the process could end up strengthening the mind. In this case, the hero asked if Yu knew where the master came from, and the girl replied from Xin Yuan. She was an orphan adopted by an old master, and after proving her strength, she had to take over the role when the elder passed away. Xin Lian added that the master had 3 spirits, but so far they had only seen the abyssal level 1 spirit. For Lin, the power of a ghost master from 50 years ago was terrifying, and now as a nun he couldn't even guess her ranking. The next day in the same hall, the protagonist found it strange that Xingqiu wasn't striking the wood as usual. At that moment, a favorability mission appeared, instructing him to follow the master for 10 days. Unexpectedly, it suggested the possibility of forming a fourth ghost bond, this time with the head of the monastery herself. King Shu seemed quite pleased with the boy's resilience since he kept returning. The hero thanked her and she asked him to follow her. He complied and they ended up on a stone path through a bamboo grove. There the convent master said they had arrived and placed her hand on a stone, activating a magic circle. When it opened, the door was revealed, glowing with bright golden energy. Most unexpectedly, the golden glow turned out to be the shine of pure gold. King Shu explained that this place was the oldest palace as it housed 3 consecrated Buddhas made of pure gold. After the destruction of the world by evil spirits, the nun's master collected vast amounts of gold and turned this place into a shelter for temple residents. Lin was amazed by the existence of another antique golden chamber. Suddenly, the nun asked the boy what he thought a spirit was. She explained that she had been studying the ghosts there since they first appeared, noting that this world contained more than 100 types. To illustrate, she summoned her ghosts, which the protagonist found quite terrifying. Continuing, Xingqiu explained that even though it was a subdued ghost, when she approached it, her hand froze. Furthermore, anyone touched by the ghost, including herself, would die. Thus, the nun had always been curious about the nature of ghosts, but had yet to uncover their composition or causes. Today, the master had brought the protagonist here to show him something. She opened a box and took out a scroll depicting a beautiful woman in a flower garden. After letting the boy take a good look, she began to put the scroll away. With a few glances and some frightened expressions, a conversation took place, though its contents remained unknown. In the end, Lin concluded that the disaster 50 years ago was caused by a drawing and that this might hold the key to solving the illusion. King Shu asked if the boy was willing to help, and he said yes. The nun thanked him but warned that mastering the ghost drawing wouldn't be simple and would take time to adjust. To begin, she decided to let the protagonist enter the drawing this time to start understanding it. However, the hero still didn't know what this drawing world was. The nun explained that it allowed one to see the ghost's special territory and some memories left behind by the drawing. Before anything else, she handed her cousin's token to the boy to ensure nothing happened to him. Lin wasted no time and passed through the scroll as if entering a portal. Upon entering, the ghost drawing world revealed itself as a true apocalyptic scene. Since the drawing was part of the illusion of the solitary temple, Lin believed this world must also be created by the convent master. For now, all he could do was walk and observe. Suddenly, the boy stepped on a bone and broke it, startling himself. But as he turned, something much scarier appeared before him, radiating an aura that couldn't belong to a normal body. Unexpectedly, ghost masters also appeared, but they were all sucked in and strangled by the coast of the rubble. They joined others who had suffered the same fate, making Lin immediately recognize it as a hanging ghost. Unexpectedly, the spirit began sucking the souls of people, leaving the hero utterly shocked. All the souls started being drawn into a giant painting scroll in the sky. Not just the souls, but all the ghosts were also being absorbed into the artwork. At this moment, everything shatters and the hero manages to return. King Shu then asks if the boy saw what happened, because this was a memory of the first time the ghost sneaked out. In this case, Lin thinks it's dangerous for this thing to escape on its own and lose control, so he asks if it was hunting. In response, the monk explains that the spirit has the devotion ability and used the painting to devour all the spirits in the city at once. However, this is the same ability Tong Tong has, which makes the hero think that all this terror makes sense. Additionally, the ghost also has fusion, which when combined with devotion, allows it to acquire its opponent's powers. By combining his abilities, it creates a new technique, becoming a specter with unlimited potential. It is said that the most horrifying ability of the painting is its spiritual marking composition. The protagonist states that he has seen this before on a card but notes that it wasn't the same. Low-level spiritual markings can only send messages, but those created by the painting can alter the flow of spiritual energy. Thus, they function like a self-repairing and self-modifying enchantment, almost like a sentient plan. And this is precisely the painting's secret, using markings to strengthen its own domain and create new spells. Faced with this, King Shu praises the hero's ability to understand, but Lin thinks she's the remarkable one for creating something like this. The hero even considers that if the monk creates another specter, it will become an endless cycle, but still nothing compared to his system. Getting straight to the point, King Shu says this is the summary, and asks Lin to face the ghost tomorrow. Additionally, she gives him a key that can open the doors to the chamber and the golden chest. However, she warns that everything must be locked, and if taming isn't possible, he should not attempt it by force. In any case, if Lin recites a prayer with the necklace, King Shu will come, and even if she loses control, she's confident she can seal it. With that, the hero leaves, thanking her for everything. Upon leaving, the system notifies him of the master's request to tame the spectral painting, and his favorability rises to 10. Now Lin understands that, since the painting was King Shu's creation and was responsible for destroying the temple, it haunts her to this day. Despite appearing very composed now, there's still a strong feeling of sadness lingering. Later, the hero wonders if these objects are real, and out of curiosity, he decides to place them in his inventory. The system confirms that Lin received blood artifacts along with a key and jade. This indicates they are genuine artifacts, and the jade in particular has the power to summon the master every 10 days. Moreover, if the monk is tamed, it will become a spiritual anchor. But to achieve this, the hero must first deal with the spectral painting. So far, Lin hasn't fully captured his third companion, but missions for the fourth and fifth spirits have already appeared, even though the system limits him to 3. At that moment, Yu appears, very happy to see the hero return, and he remarks on her good mood. In response, the two girls say they are happy because they received gifts. Without wasting time, the protagonist tests to see if they're real. Seeing that they are, Lin realizes the two have formed a strong bond with Sin Lian and Sin Yuan in recent days, which is why they were chosen as masters. In this case, the hero tells them they deserve these spiritual anchors, and that each will gain a new companion once they leave. However, Yu feels sad, thinking that her friends will become spirits. This contrasts with Ling, who believes it's better this way since they'll always be together. Thus, the girls thank the protagonist, acknowledging that if he hadn't brought them, this wouldn't have happened. That same night, a thunderstorm scares the girls and keeps Lin awake. Yu tries to reassure them, saying there's nothing to fear since they're already inside the domain. But Ling notices something strange about the lightning's glow. Lin silently agrees because since morning, he's felt that something big is about to happen. In this case, he gets stressed and goes out despite Yu's protests to investigate. When he opens the door, the presence of a terrifying ghostly energy becomes undeniable. The two girls feel suffocated by it, even more frightened than before. Thus, Lin concluded that the event leading to the temple's destruction had begun. Surprised, the boy observed the colorful rays in the sky, but something struck him. He fell to his knees, feeling as though he had been knocked out by spiritual energy. Suddenly, the courtyard transformed once again into a haunted forest. Because of this, the hero ran back to the room, and as expected, it was empty. When he woke Ling, she asked what had happened, and the hero explained that the illusion had disappeared. Ling then asked where they were, and Lin replied that although they had exited the temple 50 years ago, they were still within the nun's spectral realm. This meant that all the friendships they had formed until now were lost. However, the items they had received offered some comfort, as they could still call upon them in the future. Lin thought that they had triggered all the events of the illusion, and therefore the spectral painting must now be sealed in the Golden Room. In this case, they decided to look outside, and as expected, there was no one there. As they walked, Lin talked about the painting and the Golden Room, but there was no path ahead. It was said that only gold could keep the painting locked, so it wouldn't be within the realm, but in the real temple. Because of this, the system reappeared, reminding Lin of the mission he had almost forgotten, to find the ghostly companion in the solitary temple. Thus, the hero asked if you could track the ghost who had written the letter. With that, the girl's spirit pointed in a direction they all followed until they found the umbrella's location and completed the mission. However, a new mission appeared to save the umbrella's duplicate within the temple. Logically, the umbrella was the female ghost who wrote the letter, and she had duplicates. Additionally, as their bond was already at 33, the ghost wasn't hostile. Upon entering the location, Lin noticed another barrier. The protagonist collected the umbrella and asked Xuanhua to use her ability to get them out. She did so, bringing everyone outside and completing the umbrella mission. However, the girls asked where they were because it was very cold despite being summer. The hero also found it strange because, judging by the scenery, it was autumn, yet they had only spent about 15 days inside the temple. In any case, the three spotted a car and decided to approach it for information. Inside the car, 3 men were discussing their recent hunt of a B-rank ghost and were pleased as their city ranked among the best. Suddenly, they saw a horse approaching at high speed. This naturally shocked everyone, not only because of its speed, but because it was a ghost. Because of this, the 3 men got out and activated their spirits, ready to fight for their lives. Fortunately, the protagonist calmly asked where they were. Realizing he was a ghost master, one of the men informed them they were near the leveled city and asked who they were. The hero responded that they were necromancers from Ocean City and directly asked for the location of the solitary temple. Given the situation and the boy's ghost, the warriors assumed Lin must be someone important. One of them apologized while another checked his device and informed them that the temple was on Bull Point Mountain on the northern third line. To clarify, the Ghost Master showed the location on his tracker screen. Unexpectedly, although the information was correct, the date displayed was October 2136. The Ghost Master didn't understand if there was an issue, but when the heroes had entered the temple, it had been July 2135. Hearing this, the heroes shouted in surprise, realizing the flow of time might be different within the spectral realm. Thus, although they had only spent about 15 days inside, a year and 3 months had passed outside. Obviously, neither of the girls could comprehend how this was possible. To avoid wasting more time, Lin thanked them and left. Before departing, the Ghost Masters couldn't help but comment on how strange these people were. Ling asked if they would search for the temple now, but Lin suggested finding a place to rest first. The hero apologized as despite asking the girls for a few days, they had ended up traveling through time. Ling didn't mind, understanding it wasn't intentional, but Yu was slightly worried about her father. Her concern was valid because at the zoo residence, The head of the house had sunk into alcohol and resentment over the disappearance of his daughters. At the leveled city's first-line dormitory, the girls said their goodbyes and went to rest. In a private moment, Lin feels happy to finally have a good night's sleep in the real world. Additionally, he takes this time to apologize to Xuanhua for not being able to summon her during the days at the temple. At that moment, the umbrella begins to float around the house, but as it approaches, it catches fire. Xuanhua attempts to protect the hero from the intruder, but fortunately, it's just the little umbrella the girl had saved. To make itself known, the umbrella opens, creating a space with a massive golden structure. This is its spectral domain, and the protagonist finds it magnificent. Within seconds, the small umbrella materializes into a large one. A final mission appears involving hearing the Necromancer Alliance and saving the third umbrella. In the end, the hero realizes that the orange and pink umbrellas are the same spirit, but there's another one at the Necromancer Alliance's headquarters. Lin suspects is trapped in the Golden Prison, as many special spirits are locked there. At the moment, an invasion seems difficult, but once the mission is complete, he will have the umbrella, which can create multiple clones, useful for group battles. Additionally, there may even be special powers unlocked only when all three umbrellas are together. For now, the hero asked it to follow him since they will seek the other umbrella, but not immediately. That's because for now, they need to locate the temple before deciding their next move. The next morning on Bullpoint Mountain, Lin is already exhausted from searching. Suddenly, Yu points to one side, asking what that is. It appears to be the wall of an ancient castle built millennia ago, appearing in various locations. Though it seems useless today, it wasn't used to keep spirits out, but rather to keep people in. Additionally, Yu spots a temple inside the walls, so the three decide to take a closer look. When they arrive, the hero comments that the place strongly resembles an abandoned temple. However, Ling senses the presence of a spirit. Because of this, Lin asks the two to test their new spirits, Cillian and Sinuan. Noticing the presence of intruders, a malevolent spirit emerges from the structure to attack. But the girls summon their two spirits, and with just one spell, they neutralize the ghost, which leaves them thrilled. Lin, observing the scene, concludes that the two girls must be at least A rank, if not S. The girls attempt to converse with their former friends, but Ling realizes they no longer have consciousness. Unexpectedly, the two ghosts begin to leave, prompting Lin to shout for them to follow, as they might be heading to the temple. Thus, the three mount the horse and follow until the ghosts stop at their destination. Upon dismounting, the hero warns the girls to stay on high alert. At the temple's entrance, it's clear that time has not been kind to the place. Inside and outside, there are countless skeletons, prompting Lin to comment on how powerful the spectral painting must be. However, Ling points out something strange. All the skeletons are male. Indeed, upon closer inspection, the skeletons have broad shoulders and sculpted jaws, traits not typically seen in female anatomy. Ling asks why there are so many men at the temple, and Lin believes they must have died in battle. Additionally, there's a pass card on one of the corpses for the leveled city. Not just on one, Lin finds another, leading Ling to ask if they were all necromancers. The girl can't understand because until now, she thought the painting had destroyed the temple. The protagonist suggests there must be something they don't know and that they should check the back of the temple. In the other area, things remain horrific, but here there are also many female skeletons. The sheer number of lives lost is a catastrophe. In the bamboo forest, it is lush and overgrown, completely blocking the path. While moving through the forest, the hero hears something that grabs his attention. At that moment, all three freeze, unable to move their legs. In front of them is the aura of a high-ranking specter, and out of curiosity, Ling asks if it's the ghost from the painting. However, the hero warns that it's not. It's the companion of the temple master, a rank 1 abyss specter. Fortunately, he recalls his ability to instantly kill anything that touches it. The spirit tries to attack, but Xuanhua activates her barrier. And as Tong Tong advances, our hero warns her not to let the ghost touch her. Tong Tong uses her mutant form and attacks with her sword, but even before reaching the specter's face, the blade freezes. As a result, the girl's face also begins to freeze and the sword shatters in half. For the first time, a unilateral defeat of Tong Tong occurs, accompanied by a massive explosion. So the video ends here. If you don't want to miss the next part, activate the notification bell, and see you next time on Tob's channel.